Chapter 1594. Let's wait. The opening of the Divine Dominion will take at least half a year to 3 years. It's not a short period of time. Let's wait for their triumphant return. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had also entered the Divine Dominion, an expert spoke, waiting for the triumphant return of their disciples in the Divine Dominion. They naturally had to wait here. If their disciples brought back an opportunity, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't be targeted. Therefore, they had to wait here personally to ensure that nothing went wrong, especially since this was the last opening of the Divine Dominion. The opportunity was even greater, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. As for whether they would take action when someone came out with a great opportunity, that would depend on the situation. If that kind of opportunity was enough to make them green with envy, no one could be sure what would happen when the time came. However, many experts present were praying that their disciples wouldn't encounter the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Du Tingxian. Du Tingxian had already destroyed his own cultivation. If he couldn't cultivate it back, he wouldn't be a threat. If he wanted to cultivate it back, the chances were slim, unless it was a miracle. Since ancient times, no one had dared to try. However, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was truly unrivaled. Whoever provoked him would definitely be unlucky. With that in mind, many of the supreme experts present glanced towards the school of legalism. The school of legalism was probably the most unlucky one in the world recently. Some people were even looking forward to it. After the Divine Dominion closed, if the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, could obtain a great opportunity to advance further, legalism would definitely be unlucky. Whoosh whoosh. Gradually, many figures appeared on the Chenhuang mainland. A wormhole opened in the distance. The core experts of various forces were also rushing over. They separated into groups and waited on the Chenhuang mainland. The opening of the Divine Domain would take at least half a year to 3 years. Although it wasn't a short period of time, for the cultivators present, it was just a short period of time. In the long years of cultivation, it wasn't considered much. What the powerhouses of the various large forces were most worried about was whether or not the disciples and descendants of their sects would be able to obtain lucky chances in the realm of the gods and bring thousands of years of fortune to their sects and families. Do you think you can still come out? Kid, without the life-saving talisman, you're dead for sure. On a mountain peak, Li Chenfa gazed into the depths of the Divine Domain, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The space of the Divine Domain was a world of its own. It was an ancient existence, a ruin left behind from ancient times. It was a mythical existence. It was rumored that in the space of the God Plane, there were not only caves of ancient sects, but also things left behind by ancient experts. There was even the possibility of ancient demonic beasts. For the space of the Divine Domain, even for those super experts of the current era, it was only a myth. Ordinary people simply could not imagine how powerful those experts and huge sects in the ancient times were. Great rivers and lofty mountains, verdant and lush green. The energy of heaven and earth was rich, and from time to time, ancient runes floated in the air. When this isolated space of the Divine Domain appeared, it welcomed all living beings with the potential and qualifications to enter from all over the world. Du Xiaofu took a step forward and immediately entered the space of the Divine Domain. Facing the vast space, the ancient aura was oppressive, as if he had crossed through time and space to enter the ancient times. Du Xiaofu's mind trembled. An enormous skeleton of several thousand feet stretched across the valley, winding its way into the distance. The white bones were eerie and filled with runes. It was filled with an ancient aura, exuding the might of a beast that had passed through the ages. However, the secret bone was already gone. It had been obtained by someone. The skeleton of a giant bird covered the mountains with its wings stretched across several mountain peaks. It spread its wings and soared into the sky. Its ferocious aura still lingered, causing one's heart to palpitate. There was a deep abyss that stretched across the mountain range. It was so long that one couldn't see the end of it. The abyss surface was as if it had been cut off by a sharp weapon. It was done with a single strike. How terrifying was the strength of the person who did this? In the distance, there was a group of mountain peaks. The mountain peaks were all cut off and smooth. The strength of the powerhouse who did this was unfathomable. What a shocking place! Du Xiaofu stood in the air and looked around. He breathed in the air that came from the ancient times. Standing in this ancient land, he seemed to be able to faintly feel the tyrannical power of the ancient times. It was an era where heroes fought for supremacy. In the ancient times, powerhouses emerged one after another. Geniuses rose together, supremes ran amok, and hundreds of schools of thought contended. It made one's blood boil. Whoosh whoosh, in the surrounding sky, there were occasionally many figures flitting across the sky. However, they were in groups of 3 or 5. Some were in groups of 7 or 8. However, they formed their own formations and didn't attack each other. Everyone here was in the early stages of the martial domain realm. No one had much of an advantage. Without absolute confidence, no one would take the risk to attack. Some people saw Du Xiaofu. It was unknown if they knew him, but they didn't have the intention to harass him. Du Xiaofu looked around for a while. The space of the divine domain had a total of 33 entrances. At this moment, it seemed that they had all converged into one. He had delayed his breakthrough, so it would be difficult for him to find Du Xiaoyao, Jialo Kaling, and the others. It was said that the space of the divine domain was as vast as a world. Look for opportunities. After a while, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared from the spot. He had already delayed his breakthrough, so he didn't want to miss out on opportunities. In the vast space, one could see an endless stream of people. Du Xiaofu truly felt how tempting the space of the divine domain was to the living beings of the world. Roar, there were demonic beasts soaring into the sky, ferocious birds flapping their wings, and figures riding on Dharma artifacts flying across the sky. Bang bang bang, wherever there were people, there would be disputes. Occasionally, there would be shocking battles that resounded in all directions. Du Xiaofu didn't pay attention to them. He didn't recognize those people either. His sharp primordial spirit didn't sense any familiar auras. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu stopped in midair. He looked into the distance and looked into the depths of a vast mountain range. In the depths of the mountain range, Du Xiaofu's redbone horse monkey primordial spirit felt a kind of energy fluctuation. The fluctuation should have come from a kind of treasure medicine, and it wasn't an ordinary treasure medicine. As expected of the space of the divine domain. There's already a harvest. Du Xiaofu's eyes were smiling. Then, he turned into a golden rainbow and disappeared in midair. Golden Sun Spiritual Fruit. A moment later, in the vast abyss, Du Xiaofu held a glittering, translucent spirit fruit in his hand. It was pulsing with energy. This was a kind of treasure medicine. It was probably at least 8,000 years old. The surge of energy made Du Xiaofu's eyes light up. His heart beat along with the energy fluctuation. It was rumored that the Golden Sun spiritual fruit was very useful to experts of the domain realm. My luck is not bad. Du Xiaofu put away the Golden Sun spiritual fruit with satisfaction. Then he rushed out of the mountain range and the abyss. Kid, what did you just get? Hand it over and I'll spare your life. Just as Du Xiaofu rushed out of the abyss, a group of figures suddenly appeared. There were men and women, old and young. There was a total of 10 people. Their eyes were cold and mocking. Du Xiaofu got off to a bad start and was robbed. This kid doesn't seem to have a life-saving charm. It seems like he doesn't have any talent. He must have forced his way in. He dares to enter the space of the divine domain with such talent? He's courting death. Someone noticed that Du Xiaofu didn't have a life-saving charm in between his eyebrows. Immediately, they roared with laughter and no longer put Du Xiaofu in their eyes. Du Xiaofu looked at the 10 people around him. There was a light in between their eyebrows. Looking carefully, it was a series of ancient ciphertext. He had seen it at the entrance of the divine domain, but it disappeared in front of him. Life-saving charm. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows, feeling very depressed in his heart. Why was it that everyone seemed to have a life-saving talisman, but he didn't? Could it be that the space of God's domain had punished him, so it was a punishment for him? If that was the case, the punishment was too heavy. Du Xiaofu felt depressed and annoyed. Kid, are you an idiot for not speaking? Quickly hand over the Qiankuan bag. Otherwise you'll die. A burly man looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted. At first, he wanted the treasure, but now he wanted the Qianquan bag. He didn't put Du Xiaofu in his eyes. Chapter 1595. Hand over your cosmos bags and get out of here. Du Xiaofu finally opened his mouth. Since they had been robbed, he was feeling depressed and did not have a good temper. Moreover, to Du Xiaofu, it was good enough that he did not rob others. Since someone had robbed him, how could he let it go? This was his old profession. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the 10 people were startled. Then, a cold sneer appeared in their eyes. This was the divine domain. No matter how strong one's cultivation was, they would be suppressed to the martial domain realm. Everyone was at the same cultivation level. Now that there were 10 of them, no matter how strong the other party was, 10 against 1, they would definitely win. Brat, you're courting death. A big man shouted coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He immediately attacked, not wanting to talk nonsense. It was not the first time they had done something like this. Then, everything went beyond the 10 people's expectations. An unforgettable scene happened, which made them tremble with fear. Bang, bang, bang. With a series of muffled sounds, the 10 people exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Then, they were enveloped by a mysterious light and disappeared. Not even the bloody mist was left. Dozens of cosmos bags also appeared in Du Xiaofu's hands. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand. Golden light burst out, trying to imprison that mysterious light. That was a life-saving talisman, which aroused Du Xiaofu's curiosity. However, that mysterious light could not be immobilized and disappeared instantly. So strange. It seems to contain many profound techniques. Du Xiaofu felt that the mysterious light was similar to the runes on the splendid light avenue outside. He decided to find a chance to study it. Maybe he would find something special. After opening the dozens of cosmos bags, Du Xiaofu gained a lot. Then he put them away and left. Du Xiaofu wanted to enter the depths of the divine domain to search for opportunities. He also wanted to find Du Xiaoyao, Dongli Diao, the general, the silver-winged demonic condor, and Gui Che as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu was slightly worried about the shameless legalism. There was a chance that the legalism's members would take action against the people around him in God's domain. This wasn't the first time the legalism had done something like this, so he had to be careful. At the same time, on the Chenhuang mainland, 10 figures fell at the same time. When they stabilized their bodies, their eyes were filled with shock. The 10 of them were actually killed in an instant. If it weren't for their life-saving talismans, their souls would have been destroyed by now. The 10 of them raised their heads and looked at the god's domain. They were hesitating whether they should enter the god's domain to search for opportunities after losing their life-saving talismans. Whoosh whoosh. In the end, the 10 people couldn't resist the temptation. After stabilizing their emotions and suppressing the fear in their hearts, they still chose to enter. The temptation of the divine domain was a fatal temptation to cultivators. It was irresistible. Whoosh whoosh, Du Xiaofu flew in the god's domain. Along the way, he encountered more and more people. There were countless ferocious beasts and spiritual beasts. However, he didn't encounter any robberies in places where there were more people. Quick, the senior brother in front sent a message. A great treasure has appeared up ahead. Don't let others beat us to it. Many figures flew in one direction, flying in the air. A treasure has appeared. Du Xiaofu's sharp primordial spirit probed. His eyes immediately lit up. How could he miss it? He immediately blended into the crowd. In the huge crowd, no one would notice him. There were so many living beings in the world. Although the Demon King Du Xiaofu's name had spread across the world, not everyone knew the Demon King. Flying in the air, many figures were flying in the same direction. They were from various factions. These people should have the means to communicate with each other. Once they discovered a treasure and needed to fight for it, they would inform their fellow sect members and allies to help. A large number of people surged. Du Xiaofu blended in with the crowd. He felt that the treasure ahead was definitely not simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion. Along the way, Du Xiaofu even saw many disciples of the top factions in the 9 prefectures. Roar! The vast valley had an ancient aura. Faint beast roars could be heard, shaking one's soul. At least 2,000 figures gathered in front of the valley. They were all here for the treasure. Du Xiaofu blended in with the crowd and looked into the deep valley. Occasionally, the roars of demonic beasts would be heard. They were very shocking, as if they came from ancient times. Purple Feather Sect, believers of legalism. Suddenly, in front of the valley, Du Xiaofu saw some familiar figures. Although he hadn't interacted with them before, he had seen them in legalism. The Purple Feather Sect of the Yu Prefecture was a believer of legalism. Currently, many disciples of the Purple Feather Sect were entrenched in front of the valley. They seemed to be guarding the valley, preventing anyone from entering. There was even a 9-star initial ascension talisman array in front of the valley. It enveloped the valley, preventing anyone from entering. However, it was obvious that the disciples of the Purple Feather Sect had underestimated the temptation of the treasure hunt. For some reason, they had leaked the news and attracted more than 2,000 people. Everyone here was in the initial martial domain realm. Hence, the 20 or so disciples of the Purple Feather Sect were quite fearful of the thousands of people who were rushing over. Furthermore, there were many violent demonic beasts and disciples of other factions among the people who had come. Their tempers weren't very good. When a treasure appears, the fated ones will obtain it. Everyone can fight for it. What is the Purple Feather Sect trying to do? Does the Purple Feather Sect not care about others? Open the talisman array and let us in. Loud shouts rang out one after another. Many people were furious. Their auras were overbearing and they were about to attack. Don't make a ruckus. Our Purple Feather Sect discovered it first. A disciple of the Purple Feather Sect shouted and mustered his courage. However, he didn't have much confidence in the face of 2,000 people. There were even more people rushing over. However, Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the valley. Even though the talisman array was blocking him, he could still feel the shocking energy fluctuations coming from inside. The energy fluctuations were extremely shocking. There were talisman scripts spreading out from the depths of the valley. The roars of beasts were shocking. There was an ancient and boundless aura, as if it came from ancient times. What treasure is that? It should be very powerful. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. There was some yearning on his face. The treasure in the valley must be extraordinary. The Purple Feather Sect is too much. It was clearly discovered by many people. Why should they take it for themselves? Let's charge in. With the treasure in front of them, the crowd was furious. Their auras surged and they were about to break the talisman array. A few thousand people together could easily break through the talisman array. That talisman array is extraordinary. It might be difficult to break through it. There were many talisman array masters present. Their eyes lit up. They could see that the talisman array wasn't simple. It wouldn't be easy to break through it. You should think carefully. There are people of legalism inside. If you want to break through, you won't be able to bear the price. A disciple of the Purple Feather Sect spoke. Legalism was mentioned. There were people of legalism in the valley at the moment. Legalism. Those who could enter the divine domain had some background. They knew what legalism represented. Immediately, some people's eyes twitched. They weren't afraid of the Purple Feather Sect. However, they couldn't help but be wary of legalism. Legalism? So what? Do you think you can take the treasure for yourself? A young man shouted in front of the crowd. He was also from a large sect and had a powerful orthodoxy behind him. Chi! At that moment, a figure rushed out from the talisman array. An extremely powerful energy fluctuation and a dazzling talisman array shot out like lightning. The powerful energy fluctuation was like an arrow leaving the bow. It was as powerful as lightning and instantly hit the young man who had shouted. Bang! With a dull sound, the young man's figure directly shattered. Then he was wrapped in mysterious talisman array and disappeared. He had been killed on the spot. An unordinary youth appeared here. His aura was extremely powerful. He stood there unordinary, and as he looked around, his eyes carried disdain and contempt. My school of legalism is inside. Who dares to barge into the formation? Are you all looking to die? Oh no! It's someone of legalism. Everyone's expression changed. They were absolutely terrified. Those who were closer to the extraordinary young man quickly retreated. There were many ferocious birds in the air. Some of the demonic beasts had ominous glints in their eyes. However, facing the legalism young man, they immediately restrained themselves. The young man proudly looked at the people in front of the valley and said, "Of course, everyone can fight for the treasure. My legalism is not unreasonable. 200 people can enter the valley and fight for the treasure together. The number of people is limited. Those who sign up first will go in. As for the rest, leave early." Hearing this, some people in front of the valley hesitated. However, there were also people who immediately signed up. They had forgotten that they were about to break through the talisman array. Under the intimidation and temptation, the number of people who signed up immediately exceeded 200. 200 people are enough. The rest of you can leave, the legalism young man said arrogantly. Those who did not sign up were disappointed. Those who signed up smiled and looked forward to it. They hoped that they would have a chance to obtain the treasure. Although there were still some people who were dissatisfied, no one dared to say anything. Legalism is really shameless. I'm afraid there is a huge danger inside. Find some people and use them as cannon fodder. A mocking voice came out from the crowd. Who is it? Get out here. A terrifying aura suddenly shrouded Du Xiaofu. The voice was deafening. The young man's eyes were filled with killing intent. If I come out, you will run away. Du Xiaofu's expression was indifferent as he stepped forward amidst the commotion. In an instant, every gaze in the valley landed on Du Xiaofu's body. The legalism young man's gaze passed through the crowd and landed on Du Xiaofu. In an instant, his arrogant face was filled with fear and shock. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Du Xiaofu, it's you, a shocked voice came out from the legalism young man's mouth. He could not help but tremble. Qinjia, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant outside. Du Xiaofu said with a faint smile. The young man was none other than the legalism young man, Qinjia. At this moment, Du Xiaofu knew that there must be a huge danger in the valley. Qinjia had come out to find someone, not to fight for the treasure, but to bring some cannon fodder inside. However, encountering the Purple Feather sect and the legalism young man here, Du Xiaofu could not help but feel that it was a small world. Chapter 1596. Is he the Demon King, Du Xiaofu? Why would the ferocious Demon King appear among us? The Demon King, Du Xiaofu's reputation had already spread far and wide. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Du Xiaofu. They were astonished. What are you trying to do? Our people are all inside. You won't get away scot-free. Qinjia looked at Du Xiaofu who was walking out. His heart was trembling, and he felt an unknown fear. There are still people from the legalism inside? That's great. I don't have to look for them anymore. Du Xiaofu revealed a pleasantly surprised smile as he walked towards Qinjia. Run. Qinjia was afraid. He gritted his teeth and weighed the pros and cons immediately. He turned around and fled. He wanted to escape back into the array. At that time, he would be more confident in dealing with Du Xiaofu. As for the 20 or so Purple Feather sect disciples outside, he didn't have any hope at all. The surrounding people and the Purple Feather sect disciples were stunned. No one had expected that the dignified disciple of the legalism would turn around and flee after seeing Du Xiaofu. Still want to run? Just as Qinjia turned around and fled, a calm voice sounded. The void fluctuated, and golden light spread out. Du Xiaofu appeared in front of Qinjia like a ghost. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Qinjia's neck. The disciple of the legalism, who was high and mighty in the eyes of the world, was grabbed by Du Xiaofu like an eagle grabbing a chick. Du Xiaofu, what are you trying to do? Our people are inside. They won't let you go. Qinjia's eyes were filled with fear. His voice was hoarse and his face was flushed. Blue veins popped out on his face, and he looked ferocious. Go out and remember to tell those old fogies from the legalism. I'll kill every one of them I see. I'm serious. Bang! By the time Du Xiaofu finished speaking, Qinjia had already been crushed in the void, turning into a mist of blood. After Du Xiaofu quickly took the Chengkuan bag, He wanted to imprison the life-saving talisman again. However, he was still unable to do so. He could only watch as Chinja was taken away by the life-saving talisman. He was unable to kill him completely. Those who believe in legalism, kill them all. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept past the 20-plus Violet Feather Sect's disciples, and he attacked once again. The disciples of the Purple Feather Sect were not true martial domain realm beginners. They only possessed the strength of a martial domain realm beginners in the divine domain. Not to mention that Du Xiaofu was already strong enough to crush everyone at the same level. Now that Du Xiaofu had broken through to Nirvana realm, his cultivation and strength were not suppressed at all. How could these disciples of Purple Feather Sect be his match? Bang, bang, bang. A low dull sound was heard as dozens of Qinquan bags appeared in Du Xiaofu's hands. Dozens of Violet Feather Sect's disciples were instantly killed, and they were wrapped in the life-saving talisman and left. Qi La. A strange rune erupted from Du Xiaofu's palm, and it seemed to be connected to the divine domain. It was something that Du Xiaofu had comprehended when he was on the magnificent light path. It actually imprisoned the life-saving talisman for a moment, but it soon lost its effect. The life-saving talisman, along with the Violet Feather Sect's disciples, continued to mysteriously disappear in an instant. Du Xiaofu did not hesitate, and a look of joy appeared on his face. At least he had made a new discovery about the strange life-saving talisman. Then, his body was shrouded in golden light, and he directly entered the talisman array and disappeared. As for the people in the valley, Du Xiaofu did not care about them. It had nothing to do with him, and he did not need their help to deal with the people of legalism. Although these people were not a mob, they were definitely not of much use. Inside the valley, it was silent. Seeing Du Xiaofu instantly kill more than 20 people of the same cultivation level as him like a tiger in a flock of sheep, the surrounding creatures were shocked. They could not believe it, and they could not calm down. The Demon King Du Xiaofu is too terrifying. Someone exclaimed, and his heart trembled. It was rumored that the Demon King Du Xiaofu was the #1 person of the younger generation in Kyushu, and he could be compared to the peak of the younger generation of the 9 great families. He lived up to his reputation. The deep valley was silent, and it was somewhat dark. In front of them, there were a few ancient towering trees that were more than 100 zhang tall, and it was shocking. What was even more shocking about these towering trees was that they did not have any leaves. They were like dead trees that had lost their vitality. However, the canopy of the trees covered the sky and the sun, shrouding the originally dim vision. Only a little light was able to shine through the layers of branches into the deep valley. It was very strange. The entire deep valley was filled with an ancient aura of desolation. It was like an ancient battlefield, and the air was also filled with a kind of chill. Under a large tree, there were dozens of figures sitting cross-legged with their backs against the tree. Their bodies emitted a bit of pressure and a bloody aura. Some of them had bloodstains and injuries on their bodies, but they were quickly recovering. There was no doubt that these people had just experienced a shocking battle. There was a young man who seemed to be the leader of the group, and he was very extraordinary. If Du Xiaofu were here, he definitely would not be unfamiliar. Li Chia of Legalism, whom he had fought on the Legalism martial proof platform. He was an extraordinary existence, and his talent was one of the peak existences of his generation in legalism. At this moment, there were around 50 people around Li Chia. There were only a few disciples of the Purple Feather Sect, but there were around 30 followers of legalism. There were only around 10 true disciples of legalism, and his status was the highest among them. It could be seen invisibly. Those lions roar demonic beetles are too terrifying. They can't be killed, said a young man of legalism. His clothes were tattered, and his aura fluctuated violently. It was obvious that he had just fought a great battle and had consumed a lot of energy. The lion's roar demonic beetles come from ancient times, and they have long been extinct in the outside world. Their individual cultivation is not strong, but they live in groups. When they appear, they are densely packed and endless. Their defense is also very strong. It is said that a group of lion's roar demonic beetles in the beast sovereign realm can exhaust a martial domain expert to death. The group of lions roar demonic beetles inside are already close to the beast's sovereign realm, and some of them seem to have mutated, becoming more and more difficult to deal with and terrifying. Said a middle-aged man. He was also a member of legalism, and he was a protector. He had just reached the martial domain realm, and his knowledge was extraordinary. He had read some unofficial history and recognized the lions roar demonic beetles in the valley. The fluctuations in the valley must have been left behind by an ancient expert. It's a pity that those lions roar demonic beetles are blocking the way. It's not that we can't kill them, but we will have to pay a heavy price. Li Chuya frowned. From the situation of the battle just now, if they attacked with all their strength, they would have a chance to kill their way out. However, they would definitely leave behind many corpses, and many people would be killed. The terrifying thing was that those strange lions roar demonic beetles specialized in devouring flesh and bone marrow. In the beginning, they wouldn't immediately kill people, but once they died, it was very likely that the life-saving talisman would only be able to protect the origin spirit, and not the flesh and bone marrow that had already been devoured. Just now, more than a dozen followers and a few disciples of Purple Feather sect had been devoured, leaving behind only their origin spirits that had been taken away by the life-saving talisman. Several legalism disciples had been injured, and Li Chuya had consumed a lot of energy, so he couldn't help but be worried at the moment. However, there were astonishing energy fluctuations in the valley. It was definitely left behind by an expert or an ancient expert. This was a great opportunity, and Li Chuya couldn't give it up. Don't worry, when Chinja brings people in, we'll have a chance. The middle-aged legalism protector who spoke at the beginning revealed a smile. When they brought some cannon fodder from outside to stop those lions roar demonic beetles, it would be easy to enter the valley and obtain the treasures. Thinking of this, everyone present also revealed a smile. To them, letting Chinja go out and bring 200 people in was purely to be cannon fodder, just to be food for those lions roar demonic beetles. It's almost time, right? Why hasn't Chinja brought people here yet? Could something have happened? A woman was worried. She was also a legalism person, and her delicate appearance made the disciples of Purple Feather sect and followers secretly size her up. If they could climb up to a higher branch, they would be able to struggle less for at least 300 years in the future. There are many people outside, but there shouldn't be anyone who dares to provoke legalism. With Chinja personally going, there shouldn't be any problem, the middle-aged protector said. He was very confident that there wouldn't be many people who would dare to provoke legalism. Someone's coming. Li Chuya raised his head and looked at the entrance. His vision was dim. Someone was coming. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked into the distance. In the dim vision, there was a figure coming from the entrance. There's only one person, and it's not Chinja. Immediately, someone discovered that there was only one person. Under the probing of the primordial spirit, it wasn't Chinja's aura, so it couldn't escape their probing. Swoosh, swoosh, golden light flashed, and a figure landed, immediately appearing clearly in front of them. He was wearing purple battle clothes, and his face was resolute and determined. His clear eyes were somewhat frightening. Du Xiaofu. When that figure appeared, the expressions of the dozens of figures changed abruptly. All of them stood up and became vigilant. Their gazes immediately landed on Du Xiaofu's body with vigilance. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across Li Chuya and the others, and then he looked into the depths of the valley. Roar. The shocking roars of beasts were like the roars of lions and tigers, shaking people's souls. The air was filled with a desolate aura, and there were rich energy fluctuations coming from the depths of the valley. There should be treasures there. Where's Chinja? The middle-aged legalism protector stared at Du Xiaofu. He was a protector of legalism, and he had seen Du Xiaofu in the legalism era. He had also personally experienced the humiliating history of the patriarch of the legalism era being slapped in the face and being slaughtered by the experts of the Golden-Winged Rock Clan. Cold light shot out from his eyes, and killing intent surged. Du Xiaofu's appearance here made him suspect that Chinja had already been killed. I killed him. Du Xiaofu's gaze retracted from the depths of the valley and swept across the middle-aged man, Li Chuya, and the others. Faint golden light gushed out from his eyes, and the coldness was undisguised. No matter how strong you are, can you do anything to all of us? There's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on coming. The middle-aged protector looked at Du Xiaofu, and his killing intent surged. A cold smile appeared on his face, and he said to the people around him, "Did you see that? This brat doesn't have a life-saving talisman. He might have already died once, and if he dies again, he'll be dead for sure. He really doesn't have a life-saving talisman on him. Kiki, he really doesn't have a life-saving talisman. He's here to die." Hearing this, the legalism disciples were immediately overjoyed. They looked at Du Xiaofu's forehead, and indeed, there was no trace of a life-saving talisman. As long as they killed him, it would be a real death. Boom, dozens of people's auras suddenly erupted. At this moment, all of them had the aura of the early martial domain realm. They all knew how strong Du Xiaofu was. However, at this moment, with more than 50 people against one person, they were absolutely confident that Du Xiaofu was here to die. How arrogant! The corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth lifted as he looked at the dozens of people who had already vaguely surrounded him. He appeared to be extremely relaxed. However, there was a frightening stern glint sweeping across those faintly golden eyes of his as killing intent flashed across them. "Attack with all your might, suppress this bastard." The middle-aged protector took the lead and released his aura. Runes shone brightly like a rising sun, and a vast aura accompanied by a great pressure. Roar! He activated his martial vein, activated his spiritual vein spirit, and activated the legalism's aura. In an instant he charged towards Du Xiaofu with a violent aura. Boom, 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 dozens of auras erupted in the surroundings, rushing into the clouds and shaking the deep valley. Bright and dazzling light illuminated the dark deep valley. Roar! At this moment, the deep valley was also affected by something. Suddenly, lion roars and tiger roars resounded through the clouds. All of this happened in an instant. Accompanied by the middle-aged legalism protector, dozens of attacks came from all directions towards Du Xiaofu, suppressing Du Xiaofu. He wanted to kill Du Xiaofu directly. Chapter 1597. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, as fast as lightning. However, Du Xiaofu didn't care too much about all of this. He wasn't afraid even if they were at the same cultivation level, not to mention that Du Xiaofu's cultivation wasn't suppressed yet. His cultivation was at the nirvanic realm. Boom! A terrifying aura instantly spread out from Du Xiaofu's body, shaking the entire valley. It was as if thunder was rumbling as the aura surged and shook the void. Just as the attack swept over, Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and let out a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar and a divine elephant's cry. Roar! The entire valley rumbled as countless roars reverberated. It was extremely domineering, like a chain of thunder from the 9 heavens. The sound waves swept out like a tsunami, surging in all directions. The towering trees in front of him exploded one after another, the ground exploded, and the mountain rocks turned into fine powder. The sound waves almost shattered the void, causing people's hearts to tremble in fear. Along with the energy ripples of the golden runes, it spread out like a raging ocean, destroying everything. Bang, bang, bang. The middle-aged guardian and Li Chuya's first attacks were destroyed. They couldn't resist the terrifying sound waves at all. Then, their defenses were destroyed. Amidst the horror in their eyes, their bodies cracked and exploded. Dozens of people were killed by the sound waves in a short period of time and taken away by the life-saving talismans. Du Xiaofu had made preparations in advance, but he only took away some qiankuan bags. He still couldn't seal those strange life-saving talismans. The entrance to the valley was a mess, with explosions everywhere. The towering trees were destroyed, and the lion's roar and tiger's roar seemed to have been intimidated and began to quiet down. What's inside? Du Xiaofu looked at the depths of the valley. There were energy fluctuations there. Go in. Covered in golden light, Du Xiaofu didn't delay and began to enter the valley. Du Xiaofu didn't let his guard down. Li Chuya and the others didn't dare to enter. There was probably a huge danger inside, so they couldn't be careless. Bush, bush, bush. Above the Qinhuang continent, people were falling from the sky. Legalism's Li Chuya and the others appeared. Their eyes were filled with shock, and their faces were gloomy. What happened? Legalism's people asked. Their expressions were also ugly. It's Du Xiaofu. He's attacking us. The middle-aged protector gritted his teeth. He had never thought that Du Xiaofu would be able to kill them with a single roar. His strength was too terrifying. Bastard! Hearing this, many of the legalism elders, Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, and the others coldly shouted. Their expressions were gloomy and ugly. He did it alone? A legalism elder asked. There were more than 50 people, yet they were all killed inside. Just him. Li Chia gritted his teeth, his face twitching. More than 50 people had been killed by one person with a shout, and he was also one of the top figures of the younger generation of legalism. This was undoubtedly a slap in the face, but it was the truth. Hearing Li Chia's words, the legalism elders and experts' expressions were gloomy to the extreme. They were gnashing their teeth in hatred. Ha! That little demon king really did make a move. Legalism's nightmare has begun. Legalism is that brat, right? A Nirvana realm expert. What a savage guy. Legalism is shooting itself in the foot. Legalism is probably regretting it so much that its intestines are turning green. Some of the top experts in the surroundings mocked without holding back. They were not afraid of legalism. Humph! Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, and the other legalism experts snorted, but they did not dare to say anything. Legalism had already been targeted by many people. At this moment, they did not dare to casually provoke their opponents. Regret? If I let that brat jump around for a few more days, he'll be dead sooner or later. Li Chunfa said in his heart. Whoosh, whoosh. In the space of the divine domain, many people fell down again. There were disciples from various factions, as well as rogue cultivators. They were all a little unsettled. What they had just encountered was death, and they had just taken a trip to the gates of hell. Among them, there were many followers of legalism as well as disciples of legalism. We've encountered an ancient array. There are ancient beast descendants inside. It's too scary. Experts from various factions understood the situation and asked those who had fallen out of the divine domain. They found out about the situation inside. Some people had encountered danger, while others had encountered the ancient beast descendants. It's the work of the golden-winged rocks. Their physical bodies are too strong. The desolate nation is besieging us. They have too many people. The desolate nation has our half-step sacred artifact, the sky-shaking plate. The Yin-Yang school is also attacking us. And the Mo family. They're also attacking us. As for the disciples and followers of the legalism school, they were all aggrieved and furious. They had all been killed when they encountered the golden-winged rock. The desolate country, and even the disciples of the Yin-Yang school and Moism school would not be able to escape being surrounded and hunted down. Bastard! The legalism experts were enraged and their eyes were burning with anger. I see Inc., old freak Xing Hun. Are you going to start a war with legalism and break the ancient alliance? Li Chunfa glared at Icy Inc. and old freak Xing Hun. He did not expect the Yin-Yang school and Mo family to attack legalism. It's no big deal for young people to get into a fight while searching for opportunities inside. If the school of legalism is afraid, just send a message inside and tell the juniors of the school of Yin-Yang to yield to your school of legalism. Old freak Xing Hun spoke. Although he was half a generation younger than Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi, his strength was not much weaker. His words were extremely vicious. Li Chunfa glared at old freak Xing Hun, but there was nothing he could do. We have to continue looking for opportunities inside. After that, the disciples and followers of legalism gritted their teeth and continued to enter the divine domain. They could not resist such a huge temptation. The valley was deep and dark, and an intimidating chill pervaded the air. This place was like an ancient battlefield. Roar! The roars of lions and tigers could be heard. In the dim light, there were countless scarlet light spots the size of small glass balls. They were densely packed and covered the entire valley. Terrifying demonic aura filled the air, causing one's heart to tremble. That is, Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched as he took a closer look. Those were actually countless fist-sized bugs. They were completely black and their carapaces were filled with demonic aura and strange runes. Their eyes emitted a scarlet light and they had sharp fangs. They looked sinister and terrifying. Roar! These bugs stared at Du Xiaofu and seemed to be disturbed. They cried out in unison and gathered together. It was like the roars of lions and tigers. It was deafening and shook one's soul. So those beastly roars were actually produced by these bugs. Du Xiaofu was slightly surprised as he looked at those malevolent bugs. They looked terrifying and had powerful auras. Every single one of them was at the transcendent level of the revered beast realm. Some of them were very special. They were dark red and their auras were even more terrifying. There was a dense pile of these terrifying insects, and all of them had the aura of the beast sovereign realm. There were too many of them to count. If they were in the outside world, they would be able to take down the big sects of the 9 states. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. The dangers in the divine domain were indeed different. Fortunately, although there were many of these bugs, they didn't seem to have reached the initial stage of the beast realm. Otherwise, they would be a nightmare for all living things in the divine domain. These malevolent bugs were entrenched in the depths of the valley. They climbed up the rocks on both sides as if they had their own territory. They didn't attack. Could they be the legendary lion's roar demonic beetles? Du Xiaofu searched through the heavenly spirit record in his mind and finally found the origin of these malevolent bugs. The lion's roar demonic beetles were capable of devouring flesh and bone marrow. They came out in a swarm, ranging from tens of thousands to millions. They could penetrate Xian Qi defenses and had an indestructible shell. They were extremely terrifying and were a nightmare for cultivators in ancient times. Most importantly, these lion's roar demonic beetles didn't have any intelligence. They were terrifying creatures that had been demonized. They were incomparably vicious and couldn't be controlled. They only instinctively devoured all living things and weren't afraid of death. Goo! Du Xiaofu sucked in a breath of cold air. No wonder Li Chuya and the rest didn't dare to enter and instead retreated and waited for cannon fodder. It turned out that there were terrifying lion's roar demonic beetles inside. Du Xiaofu hesitated for a moment as he looked at the place where the energy fluctuations were coming from. He didn't retreat. His body was wrapped in golden light as he released the supreme aura of the golden rock and stepped forward. Roar! At the same time, the lion's roar demonic beetles roared and hissed. The sound shook the clouds. In front of the supreme aura of the golden rock race, their scarlet eyes were clearly fearful. But in the end, the densely packed lion's roar demonic beetles gathered together and covered the sky. They were so densely packed that they seemed to cut through the void. Together, they pounced on Du Xiaofu with a terrifying Xian Qi. Clang clang. In front of the golden light, sparks flew and golden spears rang out. Groups of lion's roar demonic beetles were sent flying, making muffled sounds. Rip! But there were also lion's roar demonic beetles that relentlessly bit through Du Xiaofu's Xian Qi defenses and burrowed into Du Xiaofu's body. Even with Du Xiaofu's abnormal body, he felt a burning pain from being bitten by several lion's roar demonic beetles. Rumble! His expression changed. Du Xiaofu quickly activated the immortal Xian body. His body was covered with purple gold Xian lightning, and a domineering and destructive thunder and lightning swept out. Bang bang bang! Several lion's roar demonic beetles were instantly shattered. Under the mighty thunder and lightning, the countless lion's roar demonic beetles that were pouncing over seemed to feel something at this moment and immediately retreated. Their scarlet eyes were filled with absolute fear, and they didn't dare to come closer. They are afraid of purple gold Xian lightning. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows, and his eyes were filled with joy. Covered with purple gold Xian lightning, he immediately headed towards the depths of the deep valley. There was no obstruction along the way, and the lion's roar demonic beetles all avoided him. Within the deep valley, there was a vast land. The surrounding rocky ground was black, as if it had been corroded by something. It was emitting a frightening Xian Qi. The shocking energy fluctuation came from this vast land. Du Xiaofu's figure stopped and looked ahead. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with shock. A huge monster appeared in the center of the deep valley. He could vaguely see that it was the skeleton of a giant bear. It was about 300 meters tall and towered like a mountain. There wasn't any flesh, blood, or fur, as if only the skeleton was left behind after countless years. The flesh, blood, and fur had already turned into ashes. The shocking thing was that the skeleton of the giant bear was completely black. There were strange black runes flickering on it, releasing Xian Qi. And on the top of the giant bear's skull, there was a treasured saber. It had pierced into the space between the eyebrows, from the hard bare bones to the hilt. Chapter 1598. The aura of the giant bear's skeleton was astonishing as it soared into the sky. Its cultivation must have reached an astonishing level when it was alive. Du Xiaofu's gaze then landed on the hilt of the blade on top of the giant bear's head. The blade had pierced through the giant bear's hard skull. Based on the strength of the giant bear's cultivation when it was alive, the person who did that must have possessed terrifying strength. The treasured blade was definitely not simple. It was at least an ancient treasure. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu carefully observed the blade. There were no energy fluctuations on the blade. Instead, there was an energy fluctuation on the giant bear skeleton that made Du Xiaofu's expression change. It slowly spread out and finally rushed towards the blade. However, the blade didn't react at all. What a strange skeleton. Du Xiaofu looked at the giant bear skeleton. It was pitch black and had strange black runes flickering on it. It was filled with demonic energy. This demonic energy gave Du Xiaofu a familiar feeling, as if he had seen it before. That blade is no ordinary item. In the end, Du Xiaofu's gaze focused on the blade's hilt. It was definitely a treasure from ancient times. Du Xiaofu was very careful. His figure was wrapped in golden light and purple gold xian bombs to protect himself. His figure flew out like a roc spreading its wings. He soared into the sky and turned into a shadow. He grabbed the saber hilt and pulled it out. The blade's hilt was pulled out without a sound. It was a long, green blade. Roar! However, at this moment, as the green blade was pulled out, the giant bear's skeleton roared. The black runes on its body erupted as if it had come alive. A strange black light shot out from its withered eyes. Rumble! The light was pitch black and demonic energy surged. Accompanied by a vast destructive force, it enveloped Du Xiaofu. As the light enveloped him, Du Xiaofu's vision darkened. It was as if he had suddenly appeared in a strange space. It was a vast world with traces of Kyushu's beast region. Countless figures stepped into the air, and each of their auras was powerful enough to cause the world to tremble. There were countless ferocious birds and giant beasts that covered the sky. That terrifying aura caused Du Xiaofu's heart to tremble, and he felt that he was insignificant. Those terrifying existences were all experts between heaven and earth. Their auras were far stronger than Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi. Roar! In the depths of the heavens and earth, dark clouds rolled over. Demonic qi overflowed and destroyed the heavens and earth. Everywhere it passed, it turned everything into darkness and turned into a demonic domain. Woo-woo, that terrifying demonic qi made people despair. Countless demonic creatures surged out, destroying everything. Even those terrifying experts were swept in. In the end, everything turned into darkness, and the cries of ghosts and gods reverberated in the world. Demonic qi wreaked havoc, devouring everything and turning the land into a demonic domain. Rumble! Suddenly, above the devil domain, purple gold lightning descended. It pierced through the darkness, destroyed the evil, and swept through everything. Rumble! At this moment, when the giant bear skeleton shot out a pitch-black light, Du Xiaofu's purple gold profound bomb also burst out in an instant. Like a nemesis, it directly destroyed the giant bear skeleton. "Who are you?" the giant bear roared, and its deep eye sockets revealed a look of fear. Its voice echoed in Du Xiaofu's ears, and then everything disappeared. Du Xiaofu also appeared in midair, holding the cyan long saber in his hand. His mind had regained clarity and his heart was palpitating. Fortunately, he had been vigilant and had set up the purple gold xian bomb to protect himself. The strange scene just now had almost swallowed his primordial spirit. Did that happen in ancient times? Could it be the great calamity of heaven and earth? Du Xiaofu frowned. That billowing demonic qi devoured everything. Even those terrifying experts from ancient times couldn't resist it. This made Du Xiaofu deeply shocked. And the purple-gold lightning that appeared at the end, Du Xiaofu felt that it was the purple-gold profound bomb on his body. What is the great calamity of ancient times? What is it that swallowed so many experts from ancient times? Du Xiaofu was shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. The scene just now was too shocking. Phew! Then Du Xiaofu calmed down and looked at the long green saber in his hand. This long green saber was much longer than an ordinary saber. On the blade, there was an oppressive aura. The tip of the saber rose, outlining a perfect arc. This long saber looked calm, but Du Xiaofu felt an invisible sharp aura in his heart. Its material and aura were very strange. It didn't seem like a Tao instrument, nor a sacred instrument. After a moment of hesitation, Du Xiaofu formed a hand seal. A drop of golden essence blood dripped into the long saber to see if it could recognize him as its master. Drip, however, as the drop of golden essence blood dripped, the long green saber didn't react. What is this thing? Du Xiaofu was puzzled. After pondering for a moment, he formed a hand seal again. A majestic primordial spirit aura surged around him, and a silver-gold beam of light shot out from between his eyebrows. Chi! In the next moment, the silver-gold beam of light shot into the long saber like a bolt of lightning. Buzz! At this moment, the long green saber, which didn't react just now, suddenly buzzed with the sound of wind and thunder. A dazzling rune light flowed out from the entire body of the saber, and a majestic aura suddenly burst out from the saber. This aura was so majestic that it could suppress souls. Hula! In an instant, a green rune light pillar on the long green saber directly shot into Du Xiaofu's eyebrows and rushed into his mind. The light was so dazzling that Du Xiaofu immediately closed his eyes. The green rune light was so dazzling that it turned into a huge amount of information in Du Xiaofu's mind. The illusionary saber formation, used when I was young. For a time, I was unstoppable. I once destroyed a strong enemy. I missed it, so I refined it to express my nostalgia. With a little profound meaning, the fated one will obtain it. A voice reverberated in Du Xiaofu's mind. That voice seemed to be familiar, and it could cause the purple lightning profound cauldron in his body to roar. After a moment, the green rune light dissipated and disappeared. The majestic aura on the long green saber didn't decrease at all. It shot into the sky and shook the void. Under the fierce aura, the space trembled. Circles of pitch-black spatial cracks that were difficult to detect with the naked eye appeared on the edge of the saber. A strange and mysterious green rune connected with Du Xiaofu's palm, and finally the rune merged into Du Xiaofu's palm. Swoosh! When Du Xiaofu's closed eyes suddenly opened, he waved his hand. The long green saber turned into a green streamer, and then strangely returned to his right hand. In an instant, it left a faint green saber mark on Du Xiaofu's palm. At this moment, the majestic and fierce aura around the deep valley disappeared, and everything calmed down. The illusionary saber formation. Du Xiaofu muttered softly. He revealed a look of surprise. From the information of the green saber, he knew that the sharp green saber was not a Tao artifact or magic artifact. It was a set of arrays, a set of saber arrays. This saber formation was called the illusionary saber formation, and only a spiritual talisman master could activate it. Combined with the heaven, earth, yin-yang, and six directions technique, it had endless changes. When activated to the extreme, there could be 9,999 sabers. Once activated, the power was so great that it could cut through the void. However, this illusionary saber formation had extremely high requirements for the primordial spirit power. The stronger the primordial spirit power, the more saber shadows could be activated. Each saber shadow needed the primordial spirit power to be controlled precisely. A spiritual talisman master's method. Du Xiaofu smiled. This illusionary saber formation was a spiritual talisman master's method. Once activated, its power was great, and it was suitable for him. Although the primordial spirit power was not weak, Du Xiaofu didn't have many methods as a spiritual talisman master. Except for the mysterious soul pupil, Sumeru illusion, soul-destroying spirit needle, talisman formation, and refining puppets, he didn't have any other methods. Generally speaking, although the power of a talisman formation was great, the consumption was also great. Using puppets was generally suitable for group attacks. At this moment, although the illusionary saber formation was not a pure soul attack method, it was suitable for him. It could make him a spiritual talisman master like a tiger with wings. Good stuff. This trip was worth it. Du Xiaofu's eyes were smiling. With the lion's roar demonic beetle outside, he wasn't worried that someone would barge in. With a thought, a green rune flew out from his right palm. A green stream of light instantly surged out. It was the green saber. Buzz. According to the information he had just obtained from the illusionary saber formation, Du Xiaofu began to try activating the illusionary saber formation. Profound qi and primordial spirit power were injected at the same time, causing the green saber to emit waves of wind and thunder. Obviously, activating the illusionary saber formation was not an easy task. In addition to having an extremely strong primordial spirit power, one also had to have a certain level of understanding of formations. Moreover, it wasn't ordinary knowledge of formations. It was a good thing that Du Xiaofu had absolute qualifications for these two things. His knowledge of array formations was similar to the heavenly spirit record. In the ancient space, countless creatures rushed in, searching for their own opportunities. Many creatures went from being afraid of each other in the beginning to fighting each other for opportunities. In the space of the divine domain, demonic beasts obviously had a lot of advantages compared to humans. There were disputes everywhere. Since everyone was at the same level, this kind of dispute became more and more explosive and shocking. In the mountains, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was dense. A middle-aged man walked out. Blazing flames from his body swept out like rolling lava. He was like a sovereign of fire. Dozens of figures turned into ashes in front of him, unable to withstand a single blow. "Find Du Tingxian and his son for me." The man spoke. His eyes were like flowing lava, causing people to tremble in fear. Yes. Behind the middle-aged man, many figures nodded. They turned into streams of light and immediately dissipated in the surroundings. Chapter 1599. Du Tingxian, we will meet again. The middle-aged man murmured softly. He then waved his hand, and the ground in front of him cracked with a rumbling sound. The ground cracked open like an abyss, and a blazing aura surged out. There was actually a dormant volcano hidden in this place. Whoosh! The middle-aged man's figure flew out and then directly entered the boiling magma eye. Rumble! Everything around them disappeared. The cracks in the ground closed as if nothing had happened. The vast water region was filled with fog. This was a corner of the divine plane. Rumble! The void rumbled and huge waves appeared in the water region. A man and a woman were fighting in the void. Every move they made could tear the void apart. The man was surrounded by endless hot magma. His body was covered with ancient flame armor. His eyes were like two volcanoes that could burn and destroy everything. The woman was captivating. Her body was graceful, just like an immortal. Her eyes rippled with starlight, and her pupils were like the stars. Even though she was in the middle of an intense battle, she still looked otherworldly. Boom! When the woman made her move, waves of mystical aura spread out from her body. Her dress fluttered, and the multicolored light around her was like the revolving fluctuations of stars. Her beautiful figure carried a kind of transcendent holiness, causing the hearts of those who looked at her to ripple. The man looked like a young man. His attacks were violent and fierce. His blazing aura shrouded the void like countless volcanoes erupting. Star seal. The woman raised her wrist and mysterious runes gushed out from her hand seal. They turned into a hand seal that was like a star in the night sky releasing its light. It brought with it a vast aura that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The entire space around the water region also dimmed. This hand seal was terrifying. It swallowed all light. It was as if the space around the water region had suddenly fallen into the night sky. Its power was unparalleled and suppressed the sky. Fire's supreme finger. The man attacked. His finger seal was like an erupting volcano, destroying the terrifying hand seal. The woman's figure moved horizontally. She activated her beast energy. The shadow of a strange beast was like a living creature. It flapped its wings and swept out. The man waved his hand. Rolling magma condensed into a shocking fire beast and collided with it. This man and woman fought fiercely. Every move they made could shatter space, yet they also carried an indescribable aura. This was a battle between geniuses, a showdown between supreme martial artists. Rumble, these two people were too terrifying. Every single move they made was vast and mighty, causing space to collapse. It was sufficient to look down upon those of the same generation and shock the world. It's too powerful. Can the Saintess withstand it? Don't worry, the Saintess will definitely be able to withstand it. There were 40 to 50 people watching from afar. Many of them had extraordinary auras, but they didn't dare to get close to such an astonishing battle. They didn't dare to be affected by it. The school of Yin-Yang is indeed quite capable. They actually produced such an extraordinary junior. How interesting. Above the void, the young man's armor was suffused with raging flame runes, and his bearing was unparalleled. Fire Cloud Evil God Dugufenshin, you actually appeared again. The woman spoke, possessing astonishing charm. Every frown and smile was exceptional. It's a pity that you're still weak. It's not enough. The ancient flame-armored man laughed loudly. His strength increased, and surging flames shot out from the void, enveloping the sky and burning the world. The woman was moved. Her clothes fluttered, and her hair surged. Her eyes shone brightly, and starlight filled the sky. Accompanied by the yin and yang energies, it enveloped her body, revealing an indescribable majesty and holiness. However, at this moment, the exceptional woman was actually being suppressed. That flame-armored youth was too powerful, unimaginably powerful. The surrounding people were worried. Their expressions were serious, and they could see the situation. However, they were powerless. They couldn't participate in such a battle. Boom! In midair, the water exploded. The woman and man exchanged a palm strike. The sky rumbled, and resplendent runes erupted. The woman was blasted back. Under her black eyebrows, the starlight in her eyes narrowed. Haha, I love dealing with people from the 9 great families. Today, I'll deal with you first, and then I'll deal with the rest one by one. I'll sweep through the 9 great families. Fire Cloud Evil God Dugufenshin laughed loudly. He was very arrogant, but he didn't make people feel disgusted at all. He had a natural arrogance about him. If I had cultivated for the same amount of time as you, you wouldn't be my opponent. But even so, you can't do anything to me now. The woman said. A lustrous light spread out from her body. Her long skirt fluttered in the wind, setting off her slender and tall body. The yin and yang energies around her surged, turning into black and white light that enveloped her body. Her eyes were as deep as the vast stars. A terrifying power swept out, distorting the void. Wrong, if I wanted to break through, I would have done it long ago. You can't catch up with me. Dugufenshin laughed. He was full of confidence. He condensed a palm strike, and like a magma flow, it was like an inverted volcano, suppressing the woman. Walala, instantly, the terrifying palm print erupted like an inverted volcano. Endless streams of lava poured down, boundless and boundless, burning the void into nothingness. The terrifying palm strike covered the water and also the woman. The terrifying aura was astonishing, making people tremble with fear. Those figures who were watching the battle from afar were affected, and some people screamed. Humph! At this moment, a young snort came from the void, and a small figure appeared above the water. Although the figure was small, its small fist was covered in golden flames. It was incomparably domineering, and it immediately collided with the blazing palm strike. Rumble! Suddenly, the small fist burst out with the supreme power. The golden flames were like the supreme fire, condensing into golden flame runes, causing the void to distort and shatter the blazing palm strike. Walala? Intense blazing energy accompanied by endless flames spread out in the water. The burning water boiled, as if several volcanoes had exploded at the same time. The destructive energy was enough to destroy all living things. So powerful! Everyone exclaimed, and their hearts trembled violently. That small figure actually had such terrifying strength. At this moment, the peerless woman was also surprised, and her starry eyes were filled with shock. The void calmed down. The fire cloud evil god, Dugafenshin, was as still as a mountain. His body was like a boulder, and he was peerless. But at this moment, looking at the small figure that gradually appeared in front of him, he was also surprised, and his volcano-like eyes trembled. In the void of the water, a 7 or 8-year-old little girl appeared. On her young face, there was a pair of eyes that did not match with her peers, and there was a demonic look in them. She was wearing a red dress with star patterns around it. On her chubby face, there was a faint golden brilliance in the depths of her demonic eyes, and there was a supreme, overbearing aura. She turned around and looked at the peerless woman with an affectionate smile, and said in a young voice, "Mother." The peerless woman trembled and looked at the little girl. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her face, and the starry light flickered. Her beautiful figure immediately soared into the sky, and hugged the little girl in her arms and said, "Little star, why are you here? Why are you here?" I sensed Mother's aura, so I rushed over. The little girl's blue-black hair was tied into a ponytail, and there was a vertical rune mark between her eyebrows, which made her look noble and demonic. At this moment she was smiling, and she looked harmless, not at all like the terrifying existence that had just resisted the fire cloud evil god. And this little girl was Little Star. And the peerless woman shrouded in starry light was Qi Shi of the Inyang school, Little Star's godmother. When did the saintess have a daughter? This is a huge matter. The saintess has a daughter, and she is still so powerful. In the distance, the dozens of people from the Inyang school were shocked. The saintess had a daughter. This was definitely a huge matter. Mother and daughter. The fire cloud evil god was also stunned at this moment, and he looked at Qi Shi and Little Star with surprise. This guy is called the fire cloud evil god, and he was already famous more than 2,000 years ago. He is a supreme nirvana expert. Qi Shi spoke and put down Little Star. She was surprised by Little Star's strength, but she wasn't surprised, and told Little Star about the origin of the fire cloud evil god. The fire cloud evil god Dugafenshin was a terrifying existence that had already reached the supreme nirvana realm more than 2,000 years ago. So he is an old monster, just a lesser supreme nirvana expert. There is nothing special about him. Little Star pouted and didn't pay too much attention to it. It seems very strange. The fire cloud evil god Dugafenshin looked at Little Star, and his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Suddenly, the fire cloud evil god looked at the distant sky, where a dense nether energy was spreading, as if it was overflowing from the 9 underworlds and permeating the void. Just the aura that was spreading out was enough to make one's soul shiver and palpitate. His whole body was shivering. Dugafenshin, what's the point of fighting with some juniors? Come, let's fight. In the distant void, strange black runes rippled out, and a black-clothed youth stood at the end of the void. His eyes were looking down, as if he could see through space. Those deep black eyes seemed to contain the 9 underworlds, and could make one's hair stand on end for no reason, and one's soul would scatter. Nether demon, you have indeed endured until today. At this moment, Dugafenshin's expression changed, and he ignored Qi Shi and Little Star, and immediately left. Then, the two figures disappeared in the void at the same time, and no one knew where they went. Nether demon, is it him? Another terrifying existence. It seems like many terrifying existences have come in this time. Qi Shi's curved eyebrows slightly knitted, and then a spiritual radiance flickered in her eyes, and her eyes were filled with wisdom. She asked Little Star, "Where is your father?" "I am also looking for my father," Little Star said. She had also been looking for him, but she hadn't encountered him. "He should have come in, and I will find him." Qi Shi smiled, and it was charming, like a green lotus, pure and untainted. Buzz, buzz. In the deep valley, wind and thunder were rumbling. Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by many saber rays, accompanied by runes and saber shadows shuttling back and forth, with endless changes. Chapter 1600. Buzz Buzz. A series of extremely mysterious saber shadows revolved around Du Xiaofu's figure. As the majestic and sharp aura spread out, the saber shadows cut through the void. Under the oppressive sharp aura, the entire space trembled violently. Withdraw. A moment later, Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seal. The series of saber shadows immediately converged into a long green saber. Then, it turned into a green stream of light and swept into his palm, leaving a shallow green saber mark. Phew! Deeply exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Du Xiaofu's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. After some comprehension and practice, he could already activate the illusionary saber formation to a satisfactory level. Du Xiaofu was very satisfied. When the time came, he would have one more last resort. However, he was still unable to activate the illusionary saber formation to the extreme. This made Du Xiaofu feel a little regretful, but he believed that he would be able to reach that level soon. Crackle! Du Xiaofu stretched his body, and the joints in his entire body emitted cracking sounds. After obtaining such a treasure, this trip was not in vain. Light spread out from the surface of his body, and his skin became crystal clear. Light flickered in his eyes, and it was as if there was a vast galaxy in his eyes. There were flashes of lightning and waves of golden light. Outside the valley, the lion's roar and tiger's roar sounded again. At the entrance of the deep valley, there was a violent aura rippling, causing the surrounding void to tremble incessantly. Du Xiaofu looked outside the valley and smiled helplessly. Those people outside finally couldn't endure it and barged in. It was probably too late for regrets now. Roar! Inside the deep valley, the lion's roar demon beetles exploded. They were densely packed, layer upon layer. Demonic chi filled the sky, and the sound shook one's mind. Miserable screams rang out. Some people's bodies were devoured, and in the end, only their primordial spirit was taken away by the life-saving talisman. The creatures outside the valley heard the shocking commotion and calmed down. Moreover, it had been quite some time, so they thought that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and the legalism's people were in danger. After that, even the talisman formation outside had been shattered, proving that the legalism person who set up the talisman formation had already fallen. This made them feel that there was a great danger inside. The legalism person and the Demon King Du Xiaofu had most likely met with misfortune. However, there were more than 2,000 of them, so they had something to rely on. Therefore, they entered the deep valley, but who would have thought that they would encounter these terrifying insects? Rumble, even with thousands of people attacking, they were in dire straits. Although they managed to kill countless lion roar demonic armor insects, they still managed to kill several of them. However, the lion's roar demonic beetles were inexhaustible. They were densely packed, causing countless demonic beasts and humans to lose their lives. Why are there so many strange creatures? It's too scary. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and the legalism's people have all disappeared. How did they get in? We're in big trouble. We can't even escape. Someone cried out in alarm. His expression changed drastically. At this moment, he was trapped deep within and surrounded by those terrifying insects. He couldn't even escape. No matter how strong he was still blocked. Roar, woo, some people used their treasures and activated their meridian spirits and martial veins. They attacked with all their might, but it didn't seem to be of much use. In the air, there were many Tao and spiritual treasures floating and suffused with radiance. They were left behind by the fallen. The surrounding people were using all their strength to resist the strange insect swarm. They didn't even have the strength to collect their Tao and spiritual treasures. Some people had fallen, but for some reason, some of them left behind Tao and spiritual treasures in their bodies. They weren't taken away by the life-saving talismans. The life-saving talismans could only take away the Qiankuan pouch. The cultivators' bodies were destroyed and taken away by the life-saving talismans. However, the Tao and spiritual treasures in their bodies weren't taken away and were left behind in the divine domain. Roar. Those lions' roar. Demonic beetles devoured the flesh and blood. They sensed the aura of the flesh and blood and seemed to be stimulated. They became even crazier and didn't fear death. Those who want to leave, follow me. A voice came out from the deep valley. Suddenly, purple lightning seeped out from the void. Those lions' roar. Demonic beetles were like birds startled by the twang of a bow. They evaded amidst strange squeaks and didn't dare approach. Someone walked out from the depths of the deep valley. He was wrapped in purple lightning and had an extraordinary temperament. Wherever he passed, the lions' roar. Demonic beetles didn't dare approach. It's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Someone cried out in alarm. That figure was the Demon King Du Xiaofu who had originally entered the deep valley. At this moment, he wasn't afraid of the insect swarm and was safe and sound. Let's go, quickly follow him out. Immediately, some people who were afraid were overflowing with joy. They saw a life-saving straw and immediately followed him out. There were also some who were unwilling and wanted to go deeper. The more dangerous the place, the greater the rewards. They were only one step away. But after seeing the terrifying insect swarm obstructing them, the Demon King Du Xiaofu also came out. In the end, they could only helplessly withdraw. Those who retreated at the back, where the purple gold profound lightning aura was weaker, were still attacked by the crazy insect swarm. The lucky ones were wrapped in life-saving talismans and left, while the unlucky ones only left behind their primordial spirits. Before long, everyone had retreated out of the valley. Those lions' roar. Demonic beetles seemed to have their own territory and didn't give chase. There were originally more than 2,000 people, but at this moment, 1/3 of them had died. The remaining people were still in a state of shock. Their faces were pale, but they all breathed a sigh of relief. Du Xiaofu walked out of the deep valley with many Tao and spirit treasures in his hands. He was also somewhat puzzled. Many thanks, Rock Emperor. Someone expressed his gratitude to Du Xiaofu. If it weren't for Du Xiaofu's help, their lives would have been in danger. Even if they had life-saving talismans, they would have lost their greatest reliance. Take care of yourselves. Du Xiaofu restrained the lightning on the surface of his body and his eyes became clear and vast. His figure swept through the sky and turned into a golden rainbow, disappearing in a flash. Demon King Du Xiaofu doesn't seem as savage as the rumors say. If it were those people from the 9 great clans, I'm afraid they wouldn't have helped us. A woman said. She felt that the savage Demon King didn't seem as savage as the rumors said. On the contrary, he was extremely charming and didn't have much of a temper. Of course. When our Shang province suffered the great calamity, many people owed the Demon King Du Xiaofu a favor. A person from Shang province said. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. There was rich energy everywhere. Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating outside for several days. If one cultivated here all year round, it would be twice the result with half the effort. Bang bang bang. Above a mountain range, the sound of energy colliding was like thunder. Many figures were fighting. One of the forces was obviously no match for them. One after another, they were killed and taken away by their life-saving talismans. Above the void, the most intense battle was between 2 women and a man. A woman and a man formed a joint attack. The woman was graceful, her feet moving across the space. She looked to be 25 or 26 years old. Her appearance was extremely beautiful, her temperament was noble, her eyes were vast, and her aura was very powerful. A majestic aura immediately swept out from her graceful and slender body like an erupting volcano, whistling through the air. The woman was a spiritual talisman master. Her bright eyes were covered with a strange color. She had a human sovereign spiritual root. A terrifying aura filled the air, causing the surrounding void to faintly emit lightning and thunder. The terrifying aura filled the air, causing the Yuan spirit to tremble. This terrifying aura was not to be underestimated. It was probably enough to crush people of the same cultivation level. The man was a martial artist, but his aura was more powerful than the woman's. Waves of vigorous energy swept out. His body was covered with runes, his robes fluttering. His flesh began to spurt out a brilliant light, shining on his bones. An ancient aura flowed on the man's body. It was majestic, like a deity descending to the world. He was extremely powerful. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely recognize these two people as Zhang Yunshuang and Su Haohui from the school of vertical and horizontal. These two were defeated by him in the past. The person being attacked by Zhang Yunshuang and Su Haohui was a beautiful woman. She was too beautiful. Her hair flowed down, spreading to her slender back and perky buttocks, adding to her charm. On her beautiful face, her eyes were blurred. Her natural charm was enough to seduce all living things. She was Su Muxin. She also had a human sovereign spiritual root. Her spiritual root transformed into a light that shrouded the void, resisting Zhang Yunshuang and Su Haohui's attacks. The Hehuan school is related to that shameless Du Xiaofu. They should be killed. Zhang Yunshuang said. The surrounding aura surged like the wind and clouds. Runes shone brightly, gathering into a huge storm that swept towards Su Muxin. The energy storm sucked in all directions, as if it was going to swallow the spatial ripples. It was very powerful and terrifying. Runes flashed around Su Haohui's body. His aura surged endlessly, shaking the void and making people tremble. He also blasted towards Su Muxin. Both Zhang Yunshuang and Su Haohui had the power to crush their peers. At this moment, Su Muxin was resisting with all her might. Some blood seeped out from the corner of her red lips. She was at a disadvantage. Roar! Roar! Su Muxin's eyes narrowed. She used all her strength to activate the Cunyan tiger taming technique and turned into a huge white tiger shadow. Dazzling runes bloomed in the sky. The white tiger roared, and a murderous aura swept out. The tiger's claws tore through the sky, as if it wanted to tear the world apart. Umph! Su Haohui snorted. He joined forces with Zhang Yunshuang. Their aura was monstrous as they blocked the white tiger. 2 against 1. How shameless is the school of vertical and horizontal? Suddenly, a faint voice came from the void, and a purple figure appeared in the battle circle. As the figure appeared, a strange hand seal was formed in his hand. Large amounts of runes lingered on the surface of his body. His aura swept out and connected with the white tiger. At this moment, Su Muxin's eyes rippled. However, at the same time, circles of runes surged out from the surface of her body. They connected with the runes on the purple figure's body. Finally, they gathered together, enveloping the two of them in a circle of light. Whoosh! Suddenly, a vast aura distorted the void. The terrifying power soared like a rocket. It seemed to be able to crush and destroy everything. It was terrifying. Silently, the space there began to change. An invisible pressure descended from the 9 heavens, seeping out from the world. Chapter 1601. Translator. H2H2 Mr. This pressure made the disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal feel fear. What's going on? Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang seemed to have sensed something, and their eyes were filled with shock. Boom! Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang used all their strength to activate their martial veins and spiritual roots. A blazing aura surged out, and a mighty soul energy swept out, shattering the void and sweeping out. One origin of heaven and earth, yin and yang, depend on each other. At the same time, Su Muxin and the purple figure shouted at the same time. At this moment, the two of them seemed to have merged into one and communicated with heaven and earth. Both of them surged with multicolored light, and their auras were monstrous. Dazzling talisman runes instantly seeped out from the sky. A dragon's roar reverberated, and an azure dragon coiled above the white tiger shadow. The dragon soared and the tiger roared, and the dragon coiled and the tiger crouched. It was as if heaven and earth had met, and a strange change occurred, causing the surrounding void to emit a chaotic aura, and the power to tear the sky apart. The suppressive aura shook people's hearts, and made them tremble. The azure dragon and white tiger shadows roared ferociously, shaking the sky and causing the space to rumble. With a monstrous aura and divine might, they fiercely collided with the two people's mighty attacks. Rumble! Such a collision caused the void to explode, and shocking thunder echoed in the sky. Monstrous light erupted like a torrential ocean, sweeping across the sky. In just a moment, Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang were shocked, and shock appeared on their faces. Their attacks began to crack, and they could not hold on any longer, and then completely exploded. Rumble. The talisman shattered, beautiful and destructive, as if heaven and earth were being destroyed. Puff puff. In the void, Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang's bodies were penetrated by the azure dragon and white tiger shadows. Their bodies were directly blasted back, and their eyes were filled with fear, and blood spurted out of their mouths. Demon King Du Xiaofu. Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang clearly saw the purple figure, and immediately, fear crept onto their faces. Loser, how dare you touch my Hahuan school's disciples and my woman? You're courting death. Du Xiaofu's indifferent voice was filled with undisguised killing intent. He appeared in front of Su Haohui and threw out a punch. At this moment, the two of them were not on the same level at all. The vast power that distorted the void was incomparably domineering. Su Haohui did not even have the power to resist. His body exploded from the punch, turning into a bloody mist. Kill! Su Muxin also appeared in front of Zhang Yunshuang at the same time. Her voice carried a kind of charm. She waved her hand and clawed down. Dazzling runes erupted, distorting the space. The dazzling light was like the falling moon, crushing Zhang Yunshuang's delicate body. Not good. It's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. When the disciples and followers of the school of vertical and horizontal saw that Su Haohui and Zhang Yunshuang had both been killed, they did not dare to stay and immediately fled. Du Xiaofu did not hold back. Since the school of vertical and horizontal dared to touch Hahuan school, there was no need for him to hold back. Buzz. With a wave of his hand, a green saber light swept out from Du Xiaofu's right palm. Amidst the sound of wind and thunder, it turned into dozens of saber lights that pierced through the air, killing all the disciples and followers of the school of vertical and horizontal who were fleeing in all directions. Swish! Many Qianquan bags, Dao artifacts, and even Dharma artifacts were left behind. The Qianquan bags were sealed by Du Xiaofu, so the Dao artifacts and legalism were left behind automatically. Du Xiaofu did not stand on ceremony and kept them in his arms. However, his eyes were filled with doubt. He said softly, "The life-saving talisman can't take away Dharma artifacts and spiritual artifacts? Don't tell me you don't know that in the Divine Dominion, the life-saving talisman can save one's life. However, there is a price to pay. The life-saving talisman can allow the physical body and primordial spirit to reunite, but it cannot protect the treasures in the body. In order to protect the treasures, some people will put the treasures in the body into the Qianquan bag. In case of danger, the life-saving talisman can protect the Qianquan bag." Su Muxin came to Du Xiaofu's side. Under her long and curly eyelashes, there was a pair of clear eyes that were like morning dew. There was a faint charm to her, but there was a sense of dignity that made people not dare to violate her. So that's how it is. Du Xiaofu suddenly understood. Those bandits and legalism people that he killed seemed to be very cautious. They did not take any treasures with them. It was no wonder that he had gained so much from the Qianquan bags. Not long ago, in the Deep Valley, there were many spiritual artifacts and Dao artifacts. They were left behind by the people that were killed by the lion's roar demonic beetle. It turned out that the life-saving talisman could only take away the Qianquan bags, the body, and the primordial spirit. It could not take away the treasures inside the body. It was the price of registering in the divine domain. Du Xiaofu only realized now. Don't talk too much next time. I said that some things are not to be mentioned again. Su Muxin said. She looked at Du Xiaofu with a bewitching and soul-stirring beauty. However, those clear eyes that were like morning dew quietly revealed a bit of nothingness and ethereality. I was just thinking that I have to take responsibility. Du Xiaofu softly muttered. He knew that Su Muxin was warning him about the fact that she was his woman. He did not know why, but in front of this woman, Du Xiaofu felt a bit of fear. This kind of fear was like when he was young and saw a teacher who taught him how to read and a thief who had been caught. What did you say? Su Muxin stared at Du Xiaofu. I said that you have some injuries on your body. I'll find a place to accompany you to heal first, Du Xiaofu said seriously. Su Muxin frowned slightly, but in the end she did not say anything more. She glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, Where's your life-saving talisman? I'm invincible. I don't need a life-saving talisman. Du Xiaofu was a little depressed. She had touched on his sore spot. It seemed that everyone had a life-saving talisman except for him. He was depressed. After hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Su Muxin rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu and did not ask any more questions. On the Qinhuang mainland, disciples of the Hehuan school were sent out by the divine domain after landing. It's the people from the school of vertical and horizontal who are dealing with us. Some people are even working together to deal with the sect master. A disciple said to Ru Meng and Kuang Ru. Not good. The two territorial lords frowned, but there was nothing they could do. In the face of the strength of the school of vertical and horizontal, not to mention the mountain sect disciples, even they could not compare to the lineup of experts from the school of vertical and horizontal in the distance. Although many disciples of the Hehuan school had already been tempered by the divine thunder body, the two territorial lords knew that they were still far from being able to compete with their peers from the school of vertical and horizontal. Whoosh, whoosh, many people were sent out by the life-saving talismans from the divine domain. Zhang Yunshuang, Su Haohui, and the other top young disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal were among them, attracting a lot of attention. Du Xiaofu has appeared. He has teamed up with Su Muxin from the Hehuan school. Under the questioning of the patriarchs of the school of vertical and horizontal, Su Haohui told them the truth. It's Du Xiaofu again. Many experts around smiled knowingly when they heard that. It seemed that the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism were working together to deal with people related to Du Xiaofu. In the end, the Demon King appeared and started a massacre. Dream and Wild Dream, who were standing far away, smiled when they heard this. Bastard! Gong Sun Hua, the patriarch of the school of vertical and horizontal, had a gloomy expression, and his eyes were burning with anger. As time passed, the divine domain had been open for several days. Countless living beings swarmed in, and the various forces were entrenched in one area. They slowly advanced in search of opportunities. There were disputes everywhere. People fought, and countless living beings were killed. Although most of the living beings had life-saving talismans, they could escape death once. However, there were some who did not have life-saving talismans and left behind corpses. Some even died with their souls destroyed. Rumble. Not long after, powerful demonic beasts and humans were fighting, and the sounds of killing were endless. In an ancient mountain range, a majestic cave abode appeared. It stood tall on the mountain range like a divine relic, simple and unadorned. The cave abode was even more majestic than the mountain. It was filled with an ancient aura, and the surroundings were misty with purple mist gushing out. That's the ruins of the ancient mountain gate. The surroundings were filled with exclamations as various forces fought over the treasures in the ruins of the ancient mountain gate. How dare you touch my purple feather sect? A middle-aged man shouted thunderously as he attacked, shaking the clouds. Inferno beast, back off! A ferocious bird flapped its wings, and strong winds swept out, shaking the void. All kinds of battles, treasures collided, martial veins and beast souls fought, and energy erupted like a vast ocean, causing the world to boil. A group of people attacked, and a woman shouted in a clear voice. Her eyes seemed to be suffused with mist, and her face was as beautiful as an immortal's. The resplendent runes in front of her released a dazzling pressure. It was as if a bright moon had descended from the sky, causing the space to explode and the earth to rumble. At this moment, the woman held a treasured sword in her hand and broke through the void, causing it to surge and sweep in all directions. Nothing could stop her. She was Yi Zijin, and the treasured sword in her hand was the mysterious Radiance Void Sword. A tall and straight youth activated a mountain peak treasure. It emitted a majestic aura that shook and suppressed all directions. There were also young men and women with lightning intertwined all over their bodies. No one could stop them wherever they passed. These people swept through everything in their way and directly ascended the ancient cave abode. There was a huge plain where strong winds whistled and dark clouds gathered. In the depths, there was an astonishing energy fluctuation that resonated with the whole world. It rose and fell unsteadily, and time after time, spatial ripples spread out in the void. Fighting for the opportunity, that's the appearance of a treasure. Shouts and fighting shook the heavens. People were constantly being destroyed and disappeared in an instant. Roar. There were ferocious beasts roaring and birds shrieking. No one could stop them as they swept through everything. Suddenly, the cries of dragons and phoenixes rang out. Du Yunlong soared into the sky, and his body was shrouded in an illusory dragon shadow. Du Xiaoman brandished her long whip, and the cries of dragons and phoenixes rang out. The resplendent long whip wrapped around the illusory images of dragons and phoenixes filled the sky. The sound shook the void, and its power made the surrounding demonic beasts tremble in fear. Roar, a terrifying demonic beast appeared. It opened its bloody mouth, and its aura shook the heaven and earth. The runes on its body were resplendent, and when it opened its mouth, it swallowed a large number of creatures. It was terrifying. A vicious bird flapped its wings, causing a storm and tearing a large number of creatures apart. Chapter 1602. More and more experts appeared. Although they were all on the same level, there was still a huge difference in strength when compared to the real top experts. Some people were afraid. Seeing that countless people had died in the fight, they did not dare to take the risk anymore. Some people retreated and left the fight to find other opportunities. However, there were also people who were unwilling to leave because of their life-saving talismans. They wanted to continue fighting. Such fights were happening all over the Divine Dominion. Treasures were appearing everywhere. Relics of ancient experts were revealed, causing countless killings. The commotion in the Divine Dominion this time is much faster than before. In the Chenhuang mainland, some old ancestor-level experts sighed. Some of them had entered the Divine Dominion before and knew the situation inside. It's the last time it's open. There might be some changes in the Divine Dominion. Some old ancestor-level experts squinted their eyes as they pondered. Our famous dragon shadow and phoenix whip has appeared in the hands of the desolate nation. Our school of vertical and horizontals barbarian war spear has also appeared in the hands of the desolate nation. Our school of Mo's Taiheng mountain has also appeared in the hands of the desolate nation. Our school of Confucianism's mystic radiance void sword has also fallen in the hands of the desolate nation. News kept coming out of the Divine Dominion. The treasures of the various families had appeared in the hands of the desolate nation. They were killing everywhere and no one could stop them. When the old ancestors of the various families heard this, they looked at each other helplessly. Those were all taken away by Du Xiaofu. He had wiped away the imprint of his primordial spirit and handed them over to his own people. Those precious treasures were something that they could not bear to part with. In the vast mountains, mist rose. The energy of heaven and earth was dense. The surroundings were silent and peaceful. In the valley, Su Muxin sat cross-legged on an ancient smooth rock. Her body was surrounded by light and runes. It was as if mist was lingering around her. Her eyes were closed. Even at this moment, she was still breathtaking. Sometimes she's cold and fierce. Otherwise, she's fine. Du Xiaofu muttered as he looked at Su Muxin. After a short while, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged and opened many Qingkuan bags with interest. He separated the spiritual medicines, Dao tools, magic tools, martial skills, refining materials, and so on. He occasionally stuffed the spiritual medicines into his mouth and chewed. As a result, Du Xiaofu's mouth was filled with multicolored light and energy fluctuations. He was in a great mood. After 2 to 4 hours, Du Xiaofu finally sorted out his recent gains and was very satisfied. He had already been in God's domain for several days. This place was incomparably vast, and the opportunities here were plentiful. He didn't know when he would be able to explore to the end, nor did he know how many opportunities there were. From the eyes of the giant bear skeleton, Du Xiaofu recalled that scene. That was a great calamity that devoured the ancient era. Those experts from the ancient era were unable to stop it. The god's domain was rumored to be left behind by the dragon god and the supreme expert who left behind the purple thunder profound cauldron. The god's domain was filled with treasures from the ancient era. However, the experts from the ancient era were unable to stop that great calamity. Could it be that obtaining these treasures and inheritances would be able to stop the great calamity that would sweep over again? Du Xiaofu had doubts in his heart. He began to ponder and ponder in his heart. Only by relying on oneself can one be a true expert. Obtaining inheritances is just walking the path of others. Du Xiaofu muttered softly. Predecessors can give you guidance, allowing you to take fewer detours. However, if the predecessors did not reach the end of the path, would the descendants be able to surpass the predecessors if they were to walk it again? Treasures are ultimately external forces. True strength should be within oneself. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Treasures were powerful and could complement one's strength. It was like adding wings to a tiger. However, in the end, true strength should be within oneself and not treasures. One was the master, and treasures were auxiliary. If treasures were stronger than oneself, then it was definitely not the right path. Du Xiaofu was deep in thought, as if he was examining himself. He should continue to comprehend what he had comprehended in his life like before. Even if he was in the god's domain, he should be tempering himself and making himself stronger. Rather than fighting for opportunities everywhere, he might as well calm down and improve himself. If he blindly searched for opportunities and fought for treasures for a long time, it would be enough to make him impatient and lose his clear mind. What I should be doing is to strengthen myself. Du Xiaofu's expression suddenly became resolute. His eyes glowed with a golden light and his gaze was sharp. Those life-saving talismans are very strange. Then, Du Xiaofu thought of the life-saving talisman that he had been thinking about recently. That life-saving talisman contained many profound meanings. It was unfathomable and boundless. I don't believe that I can't comprehend it. Du Xiaofu's stubbornness flared up. Back then, he was able to comprehend the tyrannical fist way on the stone tablet in front of the Du family's door. He didn't believe that he couldn't comprehend this life-saving talisman. Du Xiaofu's comprehension had always been extraordinary. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate to this point. Just relying on the cultivation techniques of the golden-winged great rocks was definitely not enough for him to have his current achievements. Qi. Many runes appeared in Du Xiaofu's palm. They were filled with an ancient aura. He had comprehended them from the glorious path outside. At this moment, since he had to protect Su Muxin, Du Xiaofu devoted himself to comprehending the life-saving talisman. Time, space, vitality, primordial spirit. The ancient runes in his palm fluctuated, allowing Du Xiaofu to feel time, space, vitality, and primordial spirit. The life-saving talisman was related to many profound meanings. It was vast and profound. It's very vast. If I can comprehend it, I will definitely benefit a lot and make substantial progress. Du Xiaofu felt that if he could comprehend something from this strange life-saving talisman, he would definitely be able to obtain many benefits. It would definitely be of great benefit to him at the Nirvana realm. Immersed in it, Du Xiaofu comprehended wholeheartedly. He put down his impetuousness, put down everything, and settled down everything that he had experienced over the years. Starting from the runes, Du Xiaofu slowly peeled them off and entered a vast and boundless world. Time, space, primordial spirit, vitality, and various profound meanings. A life-saving talisman seemed simple, but it was all-encompassing and boundless. Du Xiaofu was immersed in this kind of comprehension. It was as if the fight for opportunities in the divine domain had nothing to do with him. At this moment, if an outsider saw that Du Xiaofu had put aside the great opportunities in the divine domain and started to be interested in the life-saving talisman that no one cared about, they would probably think that he was crazy. If there was a great opportunity and he did not fight for it, but was interested in the life-saving talisman, then he was definitely stupid. It should be known that since ancient times, the divine domain had opened 8 times. There were also peerless geniuses who were interested in the life-saving talisman. However, no one had ever gotten anything and gave up in the end. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was comprehending. After calming down, he gradually entered the vast world and found that everything was wonderful. The life-saving talisman contained many profound meanings. If he could comprehend it thoroughly, his entire person would be sublimated and he might even be able to find his true self. Nirvana realm was a Nirvana realm martial venerable or Nirvana spiritual talisman master. Those who could step into the martial venerable realm were actually not mediocre people. However, they were not outstanding enough. Only the top living beings in the world with the best talent could go deep into Nirvana realm and step into the Nirvana realm. As for the others, they stepped into the martial domain. The Nirvana realm and the martial domain realm were 2 different paths. Although these 2 paths would lead to the same destination in the end. However, the profoundness and the benefits of the Nirvana realm far exceeded the martial domain realm. The Nirvana realm martial venerables went from Nirvana realm to Nirvana realm, and then to the true self realm. Everyone would find their own path to transform, moving heaven and earth, and finally transforming into the true self. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was comprehending the life-saving talisman. He was immersed in it and wanted to use it to find his true self. At that time, he would be able to take another step and transform again. However, that was a mysterious process that was difficult to describe. Even the predecessors could not say much. Everyone's path was different, and the true self that they found was also different. Walala, ancient runes lingered in the void, as if they could merge with heaven and earth. They shrouded Du Xiaofu's body, making people look at him from afar and feel that he was very mysterious. Du Xiaofu threw away everything and forgot everything. His heart was calm as he immersed himself in it. It had been a long time since he was so focused on comprehending the profound meaning. Within the space of the God territory, there were opportunities everywhere. Treasures were being born everywhere. With Du Xiaofu's cultivation and strength, if he were to fight for them, there were not many people in the divine domain who could stop him. However, Du Xiaofu had abandoned everything to comprehend, putting aside the opportunities and treasures. This kind of perseverance and decisiveness was not something an ordinary person could possess. Time passed slowly. Su Muxin breathed and adjusted her breath, drawing in the energy of heaven and earth, and refining the elixir in her body. She recovered quickly, and her injuries were not too serious. Suddenly, cold air descended in the surrounding heaven and earth. In an instant, the surrounding void was covered with frost. The air became so cold that it made people's primordial spirits feel uncomfortable. When the frost appeared in the void, the misty light around Su Muxin, who was adjusting his breathing on the boulder, instantly retracted. Bright runes fluctuated in his clear eyes, and there was a trace of coldness on his face. He looked at the void and said, "Since you're here, don't hide anymore. Show yourself." Human sovereign spiritual root, martial path and talisman path dual cultivation. You're in the late stage of the martial domain realm, but your primordial spirit perception is really good. As Su Muxin's voice fell, the void fluctuated, and then there was an icy aura fluctuating. Swoosh swoosh, 8 women in white dresses descended. They all looked to be in their mid-20s, and each of them was beautiful and graceful. Waves of shocking icy aura quietly spread out. Behind the 8 beautiful women, a young man in a white battle robe walked out. The young man in the white battle robe was too handsome. He was like snow, and his skin was like jade. His eyes were black and white, and he was divine. Chapter 1603. Who are you? Su Muxin stood up when she sensed the powerful aura of the newcomer. She looked serious, but her face was cold. She was not angry. I didn't expect to meet such a girl by chance. My maids are short of an outstanding one. Whether it is talent, strength, or beauty, you are good enough. You will be the one. The young man in white looked at Su Muxin. His clear eyes were shining. He said, "My name is Lian Qingrong. You can call me master." the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Xueling War Emperor, Lian Qingrong. Su Muxin's eyebrows trembled. That was a terrible name. It had disappeared thousands of years ago. She had accidentally learned it from some unofficial records of the Manchu. She did not expect that person to still exist in this world. I didn't expect that someone would know my name. It saves me a lot of time. I don't think I need to introduce you. You can surrender now. Lian Qingrong smiled. She could move all the women in the world. You think too much, Su Muxin said. She had a temper and character. How could she surrender to a maid? Runes flashed in her eyes. Her voice was sharp. You are a little arrogant. Just as I thought, you have a good talent. You have a little arrogance. Lian Qingrong was not angry. She still smiled gently. Then she waved to the 8 maids and said, "Take her." Whoosh, whoosh. As Lian Qingrong's voice fell, the 8 maids rushed out. 8 terrifying auras burst out. 8 icy auras filled the void. 8 attacks came from all directions. They immediately surrounded Su Muxin. They did not hold back. Boom! On Su Muxin's cold face, runes lingered in her eyes. Her figure disappeared like lightning. She stared at one of them. Instead of retreating, she moved forward. Her jade-like hand pierced through the void like lightning. A claw print twisted the space and quickly grabbed a maid. The maid's eyes were calm. She was not ordinary. When the claw print was about to grab her, she clenched her jade-like hand into a fist. Ice runes covered it. She instantly punched the palm of the maid. Boom! Under this kind of collision, runes burst forth and the surrounding void split open. The 2 figures directly staggered backwards, but Su Muxin clearly had the upper hand. Swish, swish. But at the same time, the other 7 maidservants had finished their attacks. Like the Big Dipper 7 stars formation, 7 terrifying energies faintly carrying profound mysteries, froze the void and crushed Su Muxin. Su Muxin condensed her hand seals in the face of such a vast freezing power. She used all her strength, and the power of her primordial spirit transformed into an invisible defense. Her footwork was profound, and she quickly escaped. The 7 maidservants were enveloped by the aura of the Big Dipper, but at this moment, Su Muxin relied on her profound footwork and her comprehension of formations to break free one after another. This caused Lian Qingrong, who was not far away, to reveal an extraordinary splendor in her eyes. However, the 7 maidservants were very powerful, and none of them were vulgar. They surrounded Su Muxin one after another, and the cold aura enveloped the void, affecting Su Muxin quite a bit. Swish! The maidservant who was the first to be suppressed by Su Muxin attacked again. Her pure white palm condensed into a hand seal, and an ice python emerged from the void with dazzling runes. Hiss hiss! This ice python was like a living creature. The moment it appeared, there was a violent tremor in the void. It swept out like a bolt of white lightning, making a strange and terrifying hissing sound, and directly enveloped Su Muxin. Su Muxin felt it, and her eyes were slightly cold. She waved her sleeve, and the spiritual root transformed, blocking the ice python. Finally, a raging flame gushed out and destroyed the ice python. Ice trap! But at this moment, the 8 maidservants converged, forming a strange and profound angle. 8 waves of cold aura spread across the void between heaven and earth. Su Muxin frowned slightly. The tip of her foot lightly tapped the void, and she rose into the void, but she could no longer escape. Walala! The spiritual fire on Su Muxin's body burst out, and it surged out from her body, but it was difficult to dissolve the cold aura. The surroundings were gradually frozen, and her face turned pale. How dare you touch my woman? Get lost! Suddenly, a wave of rolling purple flames rose from the ground, burning the heavens and the earth. It transformed into a huge purple flame demonic phoenix. It was like a purple sun that blotted out the sky, and it appeared in an incomparably terrifying manner. The phantom of the purple flame demonic phoenix spread its wings and monstrous energies swept out. Its eyes, which were like purple suns, looked down on the earth and shook half of the void. Under the blazing heat, huge cracks began to appear in the ancient mountain range. Ka. Under the sudden blazing aura, surging purple flames covered the sky and swept across the sky. It was like a purple sun erupting, capable of destroying everything. It carried with it a terrifying pressure of the heavens and the earth and directly destroyed the icy cold aura. It was as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was unrivaled. Puff, 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 puff. The 8 maidservants spat out blood, and their delicate bodies were all knocked back. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with shock. The shadow of the purple flame demonic phoenix dissipated, and Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the air beside Su Muxin. He was a little embarrassed and said, "Sorry, I was protecting you, but I lost my mind." Su Muxin rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu, and then said to Du Xiaofu seriously, "The descendant of the great snow mountain, an ancient inheritance. It is said that he is in existence as ancient as the 9 great families, the snow spirit war emperor Xue Qingrong. If I'm not wrong, he should have become famous 3,000 years ago, and he is a nirvana supreme. A nirvana supreme from 3,000 years ago." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu looked at the white-robed young man. Su Muxin was naturally talking about the white-robed man. Very strong. When Du Xiaofu looked at the white-robed man, his heart suddenly trembled. He could faintly feel a terrifying aura and sense of danger emanating from his body. A nirvana supreme from 3,000 years ago. With such talent, he should have broken through to an astonishing level long ago. How did he come in? Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. He did not expect that in this world, besides the 9 great families, the dragons, and the phoenixes, there would be other inheritances that were as ancient as the 9 great families. In the space of the divine dominion, those who had reached the boundary realm or the nirvana realm could not break in. Could it be? Du Xiaofu thought of a possibility. The descendant of the great snow mountain, Lian Qingrong, had not broken through to the nirvana realm unless she suppressed her cultivation. Otherwise, with her talent as a nirvana supreme, she should have been able to surpass the nirvana realm in a few thousand years. So what if it's a few thousand years? You can't touch my woman. Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. No matter what, Lian Qingrong had not broken through to the nirvana realm. Moreover, she was suppressed in here. Du Xiaofu was still at the nirvana realm, so he had nothing to fear from the descendant of the great snow mountain. Even if the former's cultivation was not suppressed, with Du Xiaofu's character, he would definitely not be afraid of him. At this moment, Su Muxin secretly glared at Du Xiaofu. The way he kept saying, "my woman," made her feel an inexplicable fluctuation in her heart. She was also inexplicably angry, but she couldn't bring herself to be dignified in front of him. That feeling made her secretly puzzled and puzzled. "Kid, she's your woman. You don't seem to be worthy of her." Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu with some displeasure in her calm eyes. It was as if someone had snatched away something she had set her eyes on. "Stay away from my woman. Otherwise, the great snow mountain will have no descendant." Du Xiaofu opened his mouth, his eyes shining with golden light. This guy actually had designs on his own woman. This was a taboo. After knowing what happened in the fantasy land, for Du Xiaofu, Su Muxin was naturally his woman. Although the woman looked cold and fierce and had not admitted it, it did not mean that she could not become Du Xiaofu's heart. "Little guy, although you have some skills, you provoked me. It seems that you don't have a life-saving talisman. Then destroy your cultivation and leave the space of the divine realm. I'll spare your life." Lian Qingrong said as if it was a matter of course and did not allow anyone to refuse. "If you were a demonic beast, I would definitely barbecue you. Unfortunately, you're a human." This was Du Xiaofu's reply. At this moment, they were in the space of the divine realm. How could he be afraid of anyone? Lian Qingrong's expression changed. She frowned slightly. On her white battle robe, there were some runes that swept out. It was as if snow was falling from the void around her. Her whole body began to exude a strong aura. Her posture was peerless. "How dare you be so rude to the young master?" The 8 maidservants shouted and looked at Du Xiaofu. Their eyes were cold, but there was also a hint of fear. However, with Lian Qingrong, they were more confident. A few maidservants, unable to withstand a single blow. If it were not for the fact that you're women, I would have killed you, Du Xiaofu said in a deep voice. His golden eyes were cold. You are indeed no match for him. A maidservant wanted to say something, but Lian Qingrong waved her sleeve to stop her. Then she looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "This is your choice. If you're willing to destroy your cultivation, I can do it for you. You're not qualified." Du Xiaofu was disdainful. The 9 great families were also not afraid. Naturally, they were not afraid of the successor of the Great Snow Mountain. Arrogance requires capital. People nowadays obviously don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lian Qingrong's eyes turned cold. She directly attacked. Her battle robe fluttered and her figure was like lightning. In an instant she rushed towards Du Xiaofu. Runes flashed. An ice arrow condensed in Lian Qingrong's palm. It pierced through the void and froze the surrounding void. In an instant, it rushed towards Du Xiaofu's forehead. It was ruthless and fierce. This kind of attack also represented Lian Qingrong's character. Although she looked elegant, she was swift and decisive. She also carried an arrogant attitude. Even if it was someone from the 9 great families, Lian Qingrong did not care much about them, let alone a brat from the outside world. The ice arrow was obviously bone-chilling, but the ice runes were flickering like flames. It carried a terrifying aura. Judging from the level of the cracks that were pierced through the void, if an ordinary peak martial domain realm cultivator were to encounter this arrow, they would be killed in an instant. Chapter 1604. Du Xiaofu's expression was cold as he watched the ice arrow shooting towards him. He punched out with his fist, which was wrapped in purple flames. The purple flames shone brightly, as if there was a purple flame demonic phoenix about to flap its wings and fly out. It pierced through the void and shattered the ice arrow, causing ice runes to fill the sky. Ao, almost at the same time, as fast as lightning and as swift as a god, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of Lian Qingrong. The purple flame fist in his hand did not dissipate. His aura was suddenly domineering, looking down on all things. It was faintly accompanied by the roar of a dragon and the long cry of a divine elephant, causing the void to rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. This was the Tyrant Fist Way. Du Xiaofu's fist contained the Tyrant Fist Way in the purple flame demonic phoenix's beast energy. The two were combined into one. Without amazing comprehension, it was impossible to achieve this step. Icy Heaven Art. Feeling the power, Lian Qingrong's eyes fluctuated violently. Her battle robe trembled, and a snowstorm appeared around her. Runes surged violently. Her palm froze the void and quickly met with the attack. Bang bang bang. This kind of collision caused the void to explode as if it was about to collapse. The mountain peaks below cracked and the rocks crumbled. Terrifying golden runes rippled out like a tsunami. The cold air suddenly swept out in the void as if everything was about to be destroyed. The turbulent energy caused the space to ripple and turn into stormy waves. It was as if thunder was roaring between heaven and earth. The tyrannical fist way was Du Xiaofu's strongest physical technique. With the addition of the purple flame demonic phoenix's beast ability, its power did not multiply, but it was already like adding wings to a tiger. Furthermore, it was unleashed with the full power of his nirvana cultivation. Du Xiaofu did not hold back at all. Qila. Lian Qingrong's body was knocked back in a straight line in the void, shattering the space. In the end, her body was knocked into a towering mountain behind her. The mountain was smashed into pieces, the rocks cracked, the mountain collapsed, and the rumbling sound shook the earth and the mountains. Looking at this scene, Su Muxin and the 8th maidservant were stunned and deeply shocked. Lian Qingrong's figure appeared in the sky. Her white battle robe was as white as new and was not stained with any dust. She seemed to be unscathed even though she had just been knocked back. But when she looked at Du Xiaofu, her clear eyes could no longer remain calm. However, the successor of the mysterious Great Snow Mountain was completely unscathed. This was enough to show just how powerful he was. You are also a supreme being nirvana, stepping into nirvana. Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu and spoke. Her hair fluttered slightly, and her white battle robe was covered with snow-white symbols. So, don't provoke me. If you dare to touch my woman again, I'll destroy your snowy mountain. Du Xiaofu shouted. The woman he had given his virginity to, how could he let others have ideas about her? Kid, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. My snow god palace has always lacked a male servant. You are definitely the best choice. That extraordinary woman will also be my first female servant. This time, the harvest is not small. Lian Qingrong smiled. After the shock, she became relaxed instead, as if she had absolute confidence and backing. Suppress. Du Xiaofu did not say much and directly attacked. The Fu Yao heaven-shaking wings swept out, and layers of golden talisman patterns erupted, shattering the void. The supreme beast ability of the golden rock. Lian Qingrong's eyes moved, and her hair fluttered. Suddenly, two bright beams of light shot out from her eyes. She directly punched out, and ice condensed in the space in front of her. Terrifying waves of air surged and exploded. Bang! The void exploded, and the space was frozen. A huge force swept out, and Du Xiaofu's body was like a kite with a broken string. He was sent flying in a straight line and crashed into the huge mountain behind him. Boom! Du Xiaofu's body did not smash the mountain, but his whole body crashed out of the mountain and rushed out of a tunnel. His body rushed out of the mountain top on the other side. His figure leaped into the air, and Du Xiaofu stepped on the top of the mountain. His purple battle clothes and black hair fluttered. There were no wounds on his body, but his eyes were flashing with golden light. He looked at Lian Qingrong from afar and was extremely surprised. He said, "You have reached the nirvana of the true self." After asking, Du Xiaofu seemed to feel that his question was a little redundant. It was absolutely normal for a supreme nirvana saint more than 3,000 years ago to break through to the nirvana of the true self. You can use the power of the nirvana of the true self? Du Xiaofu asked here. Kid, don't you know that supreme nirvana saints do not need to be restricted by forces in the space of the divine domain? Lian Qingrong raised her eyebrows and was somewhat surprised. Supreme nirvana saint, how could he not know this? Supreme nirvana saints do not need to be restricted by forces in the space of the divine domain. As long as they do not step into the nirvana realm, it would be fine. So that's how it is. Du Xiaofu finally understood why his cultivation was not restricted by the space of the divine domain. He originally thought that his character was good, and he did not have a life-saving talisman, so the space of the divine domain did not restrict his cultivation. It turned out that a supreme nirvana saint would not be restricted by the space of the divine domain. The nirvana realm is very strong. Submit to me, and in the future, you will be second only to one person. I will help you to look down on the world. If you and I join hands, the 9 great families will not need to fear us. Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu. From the beginning, she disdained him, but now she began to think highly of him. If she could recruit such a kid, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. I have also changed my mind. I want to subdue you. Du Xiaofu smiled. A supreme nirvana saint more than 3,000 years ago, the nirvana of the true self, had unlimited potential. Since that is the case, let's talk with strength. Lian Qingrong made her move. Without saying anything, she waved her hand and attacked. Rolling cold chi erupted, shattering the void. Dapeng Chaos Shattering Claw. Du Xiaofu did not retreat. Instead, the Dapeng Chaos Shattering Claw tore the void. Golden light shone brightly, and his battle intent soared. That day when he broke through outside the space of the divine domain, Du Xiaofu wanted to find someone to test his strength. At this moment, the successor of the Great Snow Mountain was really the best candidate. Lian Qingrong secretly changed color. The Nirvana realm actually had such terrifying strength. Ice Prison. Ice Soul Freezing. Glacier 10,000 miles. Lian Qingrong made her move. Her battle robe was covered by snow-like runes. An ancient aura filled the air. Bright and dazzling runes spread out from her body, freezing the void all around. She was like the Snow Mountain War Emperor, stepping on the air in the ice world. Grass of Immortality. Grass of Insight. Rock descends to the ninth heaven. Tyrannical fist. Lunar seal. Du Xiaofu was fierce. All kinds of methods were activated at the same time. With the support of the vast Xian Qi in the godly watchtower, he opened and closed. A demon king and a war emperor. The two of them fought fiercely without end. Su Muxin and the 8 maidservants watched from afar and secretly trembled. The two of them had such a terrifying battle. The pressure descended and raised the surroundings to the ground. Everywhere, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The void exploded one after another. Void ice technique. Lian Qingrong made her move. The cold air froze the world and exploded the void. The terrifying cold air swept out, boiling the world and freezing thousands of miles. The bone-piercing cold air was terrifying to the extreme. In the end, it froze the entire void and covered Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu slightly raised his head and the corners of his mouth curled up. On his right palm, there was a mass of energy that condensed into a handprint. It had 3 colors of gold, black, and silver. It was sparkling and translucent. A wave that made people's hearts palpitate spread out. This was the Shaoyang seal, the lunar seal, and the Shaoyin seal. The 3 seals overlapped and condensed. It contained a terrifying destructive power. Du Xiaofu activated it at this moment. Everything was as fast as lightning as it directly collided. Rumble, the whole mountain range in the void trembled. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. There was a ka-ka sound in the mountains, and a large abyss cracked open. Sand and stones flew everywhere. The space was chaotic. The terrifying impact caused a pitch-black halo to appear above the astonishing collision. It was like a black hole that swallowed everything. What a strong physical body. What a strong strength. The two of them exchanged blows and separated as soon as they came into contact. The space behind Lian Qingrong exploded amidst the astonishing energy. She stared at Du Xiaofu with her hair fluttering in the wind. There was an indescribable divine and otherworldly aura. At this time, Lian Qingrong's heart was more and more shocked. The other party was only at the nirvana level, but he was not suppressed by her at all. The other party's physical body and strength were extremely terrifying. Lian Qingrong seemed to feel that the kid was deliberately using her to test his strength. To her, this was an absolute contempt. "You're not bad either," Du Xiaofu praised. He felt that this guy's cultivation level was not much weaker than Jialo Jueyu if they were at the same level. Du Xiaofu even suspected that Lian Qingrong might have some trump cards on her. It was possible that she was not weaker than Jialo Jueyu. "To be able to make me use my full strength, you have already proven yourself." Lian Qingrong took a deep breath and spoke. At the same time, with her body as the center, dazzling white ice runes exploded. Ice and frost drifted down from the sky like falling glaciers. Everywhere was covered in white, and the void fluctuated. "Then use your full strength." Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. It seemed that if he did not use his full strength, he would not be able to gain any advantage. That Lian Qingrong was really strong. She had not gained any advantage just now. Buzz, buzz. Suddenly, in the distant sky, there was a strange sound wave that made people's souls very uncomfortable. "Young master, they have caught up." In the distance, the 8th maidservant's face changed greatly, as if she had been greatly frightened. They set foot in this place and seemed to be hiding from something. Inadvertently, they met Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin. "They are really haunting me." Looking at the void in the distance, Lian Qingrong's brows furrowed. "Boy, you and I will fight next time. At that time, I will subdue you." As soon as Lian Qingrong's voice fell, her figure turned into a white swan and disappeared in an instant. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the void in front of him. There were strange things coming over like locusts, covering the sky and covering the earth. They flickered with black and white light and made a sound that made people's hearts tremble. Buzz, buzz. Those strange things were unbelievably fast. They appeared in the air in an instant. They were only the size of a pinky nail, or even smaller. These strange things were black and white. They looked like ants, but they had sharp fangs. Their legs were small and sharp, and they had 4 wings. The small wings could cut the void. Divine soul-devouring ant. A shocked voice came out of Su Muxin's mouth. Her beautiful face also changed color. There was a feeling of fear and horror. At this moment, Du Xiaofu finally knew why the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, wanted to escape. Obviously, she provoked the divine soul-devouring ant and was being chased by it. She had no choice but to escape. Chapter 1605. Du Xiaofu knew about the divine soul-devourer ants. If the lion's roar demonic beetle was already terrifying enough, then the divine soul-devourer ants were at least 30 times more terrifying and difficult to deal with than the lion's roar demonic beetle. Whether it was speed or defense, the divine soul-devourer ants far surpassed the lion's roar demonic beetle. The most terrifying thing was that these divine soul-devourer ants not only devoured flesh and primordial spirit, but also had terrifying spiritual intelligence. They were vengeful, and if anyone provoked these divine soul-devourer ants, they would be hunted down and killed. Buzz buzz. The overwhelming divine soul-devourer ants whizzed through the air, ignoring Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin. They directly chased after the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong. There's actually such a terrifying creature in the divine domain. Even with Su Muxin's personality, she gasped at this moment. Her red lips slightly parted as she said, "Fortunately, these divine soul-devourer ants didn't attack us. These divine soul-devourer ants are chasing after the descendant of the Great Snow Mountain. It's enough for him to suffer." Du Xiaofu's clear eyes moved. He was also secretly moved. Lian Qingrong's strength was absolutely powerful. He couldn't gain the upper hand even with his full strength. Although he didn't use his full strength just now, the other party obviously had a trump card. It was hard to tell who would win in the end. Originally, Du Xiaofu thought that he could sweep through everything in the divine domain. However, it seemed that wasn't the case. There was actually a nirvana supremacy from thousands of years ago who had entered the divine domain. He hoped that there was only one of them. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. "Are you okay?" Su Muxin sized up Du Xiaofu. The battle with Lian Qingrong just now was so shocking. She still remembered that when they were in the Tianhuang mainland, he was only a martial honor. However, in the blink of an eye, he had become so powerful. "I'm fine. If he didn't run, I could definitely beat him down." Du Xiaofu patted his chest as if he was making a solemn vow. "He's very strong. He's the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, and his inheritance is no less than that of the 9 great clans." While they were speaking, Su Muxin arrived beside Du Xiaofu. Her long skirt fluttered in the wind, and the curves of her body were moving. She was both charming and holy, and her temperament was very special. Her charm was enough to make all living things infatuated, and her holiness was inviolable. Du Xiaofu curled his lips and said, "I'm also very strong. I'm a greater supreme nirvana, and he's only a lesser supreme." Su Muxin was somewhat speechless. Was this really the world-famous, savage demon king? She opened her pearly white teeth and said, "I have to go find senior sister Engine." "The people from the School of Vertical and Horizontal and Legalism are causing trouble for our Hahuan school. I'll go with you." Du Xiaofu opened his mouth, and his expression immediately became gloomy. His clear eyes revealed an undisguised chill as he said, "They're making a move on the Hahuan school because of me. It seems like I have to do something." "What do you plan to do?" Su Muxin asked. "Just take care of them," Du Xiaofu said in a relaxed manner. "The School of Legalism and Vertical and Horizontal also have many experts. You have to be careful. I've received news that this time, the School of Legalism and Vertical and Horizontal have sent in some monstrous geniuses." Su Muxin rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu and said, "You're a supreme nirvana, and your strength isn't restricted here. However, it's hard to say if the School of Legalism and Vertical and Horizontal doesn't have any. If we're besieged at that time, we'll be the ones to suffer." "I'm not afraid of being besieged. I like to win with fewer people the most." Du Xiaofu suddenly turned his gaze to Su Muxin and said, "You just said, we. Do you want to go with us?" "The School of Vertical and Horizontal and Legalism are making a move on the Hahuan school. I can't just ignore it. Su Muxin's expression was slightly cold as she said, I was originally worried that the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism would make a move on the Hehuan school. Now, I don't have to worry anymore. If we don't fight back, they'll really think that the Hehuan school is a pushover. I'm the one who implicated the Hehuan school. Du Xiaofu was well aware that his title as the Hehuan school's supervisor had implicated the Hehuan school. That was why the school of legalism and vertical and horizontal were making a move on the Hehuan school. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also had some doubts in his heart. If the school of legalism were to make a move on the Hehuan school, it would still make sense. However, he didn't know why the school of vertical and horizontal would make a move on the Hehuan school. He didn't seem to have much of a grudge with the school of vertical and horizontal. All he did was win some treasures. However, since the school of vertical and horizontal wanted to get involved, Du Xiaofu didn't intend to be polite. In any case, he didn't have to worry about his debts and enemies. In that case, they shouldn't blame him for being rude. Let's go. We're also going to the center of the Divine Dominion. Rumor has it that the greatest opportunity lies in the center of the Divine Dominion. Su Muxin said. Her eyes were clear, and her long dress fluttered in the wind. Her exquisite and curvaceous figure was like a beautiful painting on this flattened mountain range. Legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, it's time to settle the score, Du Xiaofu said softly. A hint of coldness flashed across his clear eyes. Whoosh whoosh, then, the two figures disappeared from the mountain range. In a flash, they were nowhere to be seen. Outside an ancient cave, there were many people surrounding it. However, no one dared to take half a step in. This was because there were disciples of legalism outside the cave, and they were all occupied by legalism. Damn it! The school of legalism has gone too far. What can we do? We're not as strong as them. With the legalism experts inside, we're no match for them. Many creatures around were angry, but there was nothing they could do. Even if they were at the same level, they were no match for the disciples of legalism. After a few outlaws and a few powerful demonic beasts were killed on the spot by the disciples of legalism, the surrounding people were so intimidated that no one dared to take half a step forward. Whoosh whoosh, two golden streams of light broke through the sky. Before the two disciples of legalism outside the ancient cave could react, they were pierced through between their eyebrows and killed. Qila. The two life-saving talismans soared through the air and left. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared. Strands of ancient runes appeared in his palm, as if they had fused together with the space. This was the result of the last time he was immersed in comprehending. He had made slight progress. As the ancient runes appeared in Du Xiaofu's palm, the two life-saving talismans froze in the void, as if they were attracted by something. Voila! Just as Du Xiaofu was about to move, the ancient runes in his palm cracked, and the two life-saving talismans disappeared in an instant. Sigh. I'm still lacking a bit. Du Xiaofu sighed. He was still lacking a bit, and he couldn't completely comprehend the profound meaning contained within the life-saving talismans. Otherwise, he would have been able to control them just now. Who dares to touch a disciple of legalism? Outside the cave, several disciples of legalism shouted. Bang! A dazzling claw landed, tearing one of them apart. In mid-air, Su Muxin's beautiful figure swept down. Her curves were exquisite, and she was both bewitching and holy. As her figure landed on the ground, a soul storm swept out, causing one of the disciples of legalism to become sluggish. Then, his forehead was pierced through by a stream of energy. Bang bang bang! 3 muffled sounds rang out, and the remaining 3 people were once again killed by Du Xiaofu with ease. There are still people inside. Su Muxin said softly. Her attacks were also bewitching, and her voice was like the sounds of nature. There might be some dangers inside. Let's just wait for them to come. A sinister smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face as he looked at the ancient cave in front of him. It was incomparably majestic, and there were waves of multicolored light circulating around it. It was definitely extraordinary. There might be some astonishing treasures inside, but there might also be great dangers. It's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. He is the one who killed a disciple of legalism. The surrounding people exclaimed. Some of them were from the central province, and some of them recognized the Demon King. There's also the alluring phantom Su Muxin, the headmaster of Hehuan School. There were also some cultivators from Shang province who recognized Su Muxin. Why are the alluring phantom Su Muxin and the Demon King together? What's so strange about this? The Demon King Du Xiaofu is the headmaster of Hehuan School. Rumor has it that the legalism and the Demon King Du Xiaofu have a deep grudge. It seems like the Demon King Du Xiaofu is here to cause trouble for the legalism. The surrounding people were discussing, and some tactful people immediately retreated. There were many experts from legalism inside the cave. When the time comes, a great battle would be unavoidable, and they didn't want to be involved. Sure enough, after a while, 30 or so disciples from legalism walked out of the cave. They all had joyful expressions on their faces. It was obvious that they had gained a lot in the cave. They were majestic and proud, and their temperaments were extraordinary. Even though everyone's cultivation was suppressed to the same level in the divine domain, they still seemed to be a level above the rest. Seeing the disappearance of the people outside the cave, it wasn't hard for someone to guess that someone must have killed them. He immediately shouted, "Who dares to touch the people from legalism? Come out." "The ones I killed were from legalism, what's with the shouting?" Du Xiaofu lazily leaned on a rock and stretched. Du Xiaofu, the dozens of disciples from legalism all looked over. When they saw the familiar figure, their expressions suddenly changed. "Kill." Du Xiaofu didn't hold back. He didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a large saber shadow flew out from his right palm. It erupted with runes and cut through the void. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, wherever the saber shadow passed, it contained the power of the 9 palaces. The dozens of disciples from legalism were killed in a few breaths of time, leaving behind a large pile of treasures and spatial pouches. There were life-saving talismans floating in front of Du Xiaofu, but they soon disappeared. I must find these life-saving talismans. Otherwise, I would have done it for nothing. Du Xiaofu frowned. If there were life-saving talismans, killing these disciples from legalism was equivalent to killing them for nothing. There are quite a lot of things. However, Du Xiaofu then revealed a smile. These disciples from legalism left quite a lot of things, and he didn't hesitate to take them all. Everyone, where are the people from legalism and school of vertical and horizontal? Du Xiaofu asked the surrounding creatures. He wanted to find the people from legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. There are people from legalism not far ahead. 6 hours ago, a treasure appeared on the left. I saw people from the school of vertical and horizontal. The spectators in the surroundings returned to their senses from their shock. Originally, they had thought that there would be a shocking battle, but they had never thought that in just a few breaths, the several dozen extraordinary and arrogant disciples of the school of legalism would be slain by the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Chapter 1606. None of the creatures had a good impression of the people from the 9 great families, who had occupied a lot of places. They all began to inform them of the news. Many thanks. Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin left to search for people from the school of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. Several hours later, a group of disciples from the school of vertical and horizontal stood on top of a huge mountain peak. They were full of arrogance as they looked down on all creatures. There were huge beasts and spiritual birds that could not be defeated. Who dares to touch the things that the school of vertical and horizontal wants? A young man stood on top of the mountain like a deity. He held a long spear in his hand and looked down on everyone. His aura was like a divine dragon and his aura was like a fierce tiger. His whole body was covered in dazzling runes. Bang! With a low muffled sound, a golden figure descended and blasted him apart with a punch. A young man in purple battle clothes appeared. Qi-La, a beautiful woman, descended. Her energy pierced through the void and killed many of the followers of the school of vertical and horizontal. She spoke with a voice like the sounds of nature and cold. Do you think the Hehuan school of the school of vertical and horizontal is easy to bully? The young man in purple battle clothes stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal with undisguised killing intent. Do you want to kill yourselves, or do you want me to do it? Heavens, who is that person? He actually wants the school of vertical and horizontal to kill themselves. It's Su Muxin from the Hahuan school and the demon king Du Xiaofu. The creatures in the surroundings cried out in alarm. Someone immediately recognized the two. Du Xiaofu, you dare kill people from the school of vertical and horizontal. On the mountain peak, the group of people from the school of vertical and horizontal came to their senses. They stood together and faced each other with weapons. Fierce killing intent filled the air as their eyes revealed ominous glints. The ones I killed were the school of vertical and horizontal. Go out and tell them that if they dare to touch the people around me, don't even think about leaving a single one of them in the divine domain. Du Xiaofu replied. You dare to provoke the school of vertical and horizontal? Kill. A young man shouted. He knew that Du Xiaofu was extraordinary. He had seen it with his own eyes, but he was not afraid because they had the numbers and everyone's cultivation were suppressed. Rumble. In an instant, dozens of attacks arrived at the same time, blasting towards Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin without holding back at all. Roar! Swish, 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 swish. Du Xiaofu activated his domineering aura and roared. The roar of a dragon and the trumpeting of a divine elephant shook the 9 heavens, causing many disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal to explode. The illusory saber formation in his hand was activated and killed another 10 people. Chi Lala. Su Muxin only managed to kill a few followers from the school of vertical and horizontal. The rest were intentionally killed by Du Xiaofu. After collecting a large pile of treasures and cosmos bags, the two figures swaggered off. Oh my God! Some people in the distance were so shocked that they went limp. That demon king was too terrifying. The school of vertical and horizontal was not his match at all. It was a massacre. In the following days, there would be disciples from the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal being killed every few hours. The killers were all Demon King Du Xiaofu. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was wantonly searching for people from the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism. This news caused an uproar in the divine realm. It's too tragic. More than 100 disciples from the legalism were killed until their heads bled. Some of the top disciples from the legalism had to run away in blood. Not only that, but the 300 people from the school of vertical and horizontal were almost all defeated by the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Only a few managed to escape. They were as miserable as dogs. The legalism has always had a grudge against the Demon King Du Xiaofu. I don't know how the school of vertical and horizontal got involved. The Demon King Du Xiaofu is taking revenge. Too terrifying. The Demon King Du Xiaofu is too strong. The legalism and school of vertical and horizontal were no match for him. They could only be crushed. Many places in the divine realm were abuzz with discussions. Bastard, we can't let that brat go. He's provoking the school of vertical and horizontal. We won't let him go. On the Chenhuang mainland, Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, Gong Sunhua, and the other old ancestors were furious. In just a few days, several hundred disciples from the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism were killed. That demon king said he's going to start a massacre. He'll kill everyone he sees. Du Xiaofu is too despicable. He's purposely causing the legalism disciples to commit suicide. That demon king said that even if the old things from the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism go in, he'll kill everyone he sees. The Desolate Nations people are also attacking the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. And the golden-winged rocks. They're the most savage. They don't put the legalism disciples in their eyes. A large group of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal's disciples were furious. However, their eyes were filled with fear and trepidation. Within the divine realm, the Desolate Nations and golden-winged rocks were also attacking the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. It could be said that the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal were completely surrounded and annihilated. Lawless. This is a provocation, an absolute provocation. If I don't kill that brat, I won't be able to vent the hatred in my heart. The elders and experts of the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal were on the verge of collapse. They were stamping with rage. You can't even withstand a single blow. How dare you be so arrogant? On the Qinhuang mainland, the old lady of the golden-winged rocks said this sentence. Her wrinkled face was full of smiles. She didn't take the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism seriously at all. Legalism is in trouble. Bloody bad luck. The school of vertical and horizontal is also involved. They're probably regretting it so much that their intestines are turning green. That little demon king is really scary. He's killing everyone by himself. Many super experts in the surroundings were enjoying the show. They stroked their beards and laughed. Within the divine realm, there was also the sun, moon, and stars. Everything was no different from the outside world. At night, the moonlight was like a ribbon. A graceful figure was shrouded in the moonlight. She was holy and enchanting, moving one's heart and soul. In the mountains under the moonlight, she was like a fairy that had descended into the mortal world. Du Xiaofu, what are you trying to do? The legalism won't let you off. A legalism disciple was imprisoned. When he saw the familiar figure in front of him, his hair stood on end. Fear crept out from the depths of his primordial spirit. However, he had a life-saving talisman. Even if he didn't die, he still had something to rely on. Du Xiaofu ignored this legalism disciple. Ancient runes flew out from his palm, twisting the void and spreading out a mysterious power. At this moment, the shining life-saving talisman between the legalism disciple's eyebrows seemed to be attracted by something. It started to move like a living thing, as if it was about to be sucked out. Ka. But in the end, the legalism disciple's eyebrows cracked. His body exploded into a bloody mist, and the life-saving talisman disappeared. Sigh. Du Xiaofu sighed. He put away a few Qiankuan bags and 2 high-grade Dharma artifacts with a disappointed expression. What's wrong? Su Muxin walked over with a slight frown on her face. I killed the 7th one too. Du Xiaofu said helplessly. He captured a few people and wanted to study their life-saving talismans, but he didn't succeed. It's not easy to study a life-saving talisman. Rumor has it that there were some extremely talented people who wanted to study it, but they didn't find anything. Su Muxin said, but I did find something. It won't take long for me to succeed. Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with determination. Although he failed time and time again, he gained something new every time. Especially in the time ultimacy, space ultimacy, primordial spirit ultimacy, vitality ultimacy, and other ultimacies. This made Du Xiaofu even more confident that he could carve out his own path. I hope you succeed. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Su Muxin's clear eyes moved slightly. She could see that this guy was stubborn, and not many people could compare to him. She then said softly, I still haven't found Senior Sister and Jian. I hope they are safe. Don't worry too much. Even if something happens, they have life-saving talismans. Du Xiaofu comforted. He thought of the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Miling, and couldn't help but frown. She wasn't someone to be trifled with. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. Many people gathered in the valley, and there were at least 1,000 of them. Waves of invisible aura spread out, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Too arrogant. We can't let that kid go. Let's kill him together. A handsome young man appeared in the sky. His eyes were filled with runes and filled with dragon might. It was as if the might of a true dragon had descended. He was the Dragon Fifth, a terrifying existence among the dragons. He was still brooding over his defeat at the hands of Du Xiaofu in the legalism tournament. I've received confirmation that the kid's last attack was not far from here. The sky is already dark, so he must have settled down nearby. An outstanding young man was wrapped in radiance. He was Zhang Wenjing from the school of vertical and horizontal. He was also one of the top experts among the younger generation of the school of vertical and horizontal. He was in the same boat as the dragon. He was still brooding over his defeat last time. He's a Nirvana Realm Grand Supreme. He's very strong. A young man in his late 20s said. He was dressed in a brocade robe, and his dazzling black eyes were like obsidian. He exuded a heroic and awe-inspiring temperament, but there was a hidden sharpness in his eyes like an eagle's. The young man's invisible aura was oppressive, making people feel an inexplicable sense of danger. He was Han Qianran, the strongest existence among the younger generation of the legalism tournament. He had been seriously injured last time, but he had recovered with the support of the legalism tournament. Dragon Fifth and Zhang Wenjing were also somewhat suppressed by Han Qianran. They knew that they weren't as strong as him. There are so many of us. Can't we kill that kid? Dragon Fifth asked. There were more than 1,000 people in the God domain, and they were all at the initial stage of the domain realm. They didn't believe that they couldn't deal with the Demon King Du Xiaofu alone. He's extraordinarily strong. If we want to kill him, we have to be fully prepared. If we were outside, we might not have a good chance, but in the God domain, it's our chance. Han Qianran said. His dark eyes flashed with coldness in the moonlight. He had been rising proudly, and it wouldn't take long for him to become the pillar of the legalism tournament and carry the banner of the legalism tournament. However, the defeat not long ago had caused him to suffer a disastrous decline. He knew that if he didn't kill Du Xiaofu this time, it would affect his future cultivation and become a stubborn obstacle. The next morning, the morning sun rose and shone on the mountains. Crack! Du Xiaofu stretched and felt comfortable all over. Chapter 1607. It's time to go. Su Muxin floated over. Her graceful figure made Du Xiaofu swallow his saliva. Then, with a righteous expression, he said, Let's continue our search. If we meet people from the school of legalism or the school of vertical and horizontal, it's their bad luck. Demon King, I saw people from the school of legalism not far ahead. There are quite a few of them, dozens of them. After a while, a dozen or so young men and women spoke up on the main road. They were very enthusiastic about Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin's journey. Is that so? Can you bring me there? Du Xiaofu asked with a faint smile. Sure. They hesitated for a moment and looked at each other, but nodded in the end. You really want to go? Su Muxin asked Du Xiaofu. She felt that these young men and women were a little strange. Their eyes were flickering, and they kept looking around. There must be something wrong. Of course, why wouldn't I? Du Xiaofu smiled and said to Su Muxin, Follow me closely, don't get lost. Su Muxin's eyes flickered. She already understood and nodded. Sush, sush, the dozen people led the way. Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin followed and turned into a rainbow. It's just a little ahead. An hour later, in front of a vast valley, the dozen people stopped and said to Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin. Du Xiaofu looked around. There was no one around, and a faint smile appeared on his face. There's an ambush. There are talisman formations around us. Su Muxin's expression changed. Her Yuan Shen was very powerful, and she was also a talisman master. She noticed some clues. Kiki, you dare to touch the school of vertical and horizontal? I won't forgive you. The leader of the group immediately changed his expression. He was a follower of the school of vertical and horizontal. Because he was unfamiliar with Du Xiaofu, he had been searching everywhere for him. They were also part of the group that went out to search for the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. However, they were lucky and encountered the Demon King, which led them here. Rumble. As soon as the young man and woman finished speaking, numerous pillars of light shot up into the sky. The light was dazzling, and there were talisman matrices that were activated. They covered the sky and the sun, and their pressure spread out in all directions. They were powerful and shocking. That terrifying sound enveloped heaven and earth. Killing intent rushed into the heavens. This was a great killing formation. Along with the activation of the talisman formation, the surrounding space changed as winds and clouds surged, and the 10+ young men and women instantly vanished. This is a killing formation. They've set up a killing trap. Su Muxin frowned. She could feel that the terrifying killing formation around her was extraordinary. It's all right. Stand by my side. Don't stray too far from me. Du Xiaofu spoke. His gaze was firm and confident, and it was also frightening. Su Muxin looked at Du Xiaofu. Suddenly, she felt a sense of security. It was as if everything would be fine if she stood by his side, and she wouldn't have to worry anymore. She had never had such a feeling before. It tugged at her heartstrings. That feeling was indescribable. She was a little absent-minded, but it was very wonderful. Rumble, roar. In an instant, the space within the great formation collapsed. It was as if the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting. Stars fell, winds rose, and clouds surged. There were also countless ferocious beasts that pounced over. Their killing intent was revealed, and they covered the sky and the earth as they pressed down. Hold me tight. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and hugged the graceful and alluring figure in his arms. His footsteps were ethereal and unpredictable. Those frightening murderous intents that were descending would quietly and strangely disappear around him. Su Muxin was stunned. The last time was an illusion, but this was the first time a man was so close to her, and he even hugged her tightly. But in the end, her hands still wrapped around his waist. A strange feeling tugged at her heartstrings. Boom! At the same time, golden light erupted from Du Xiaofu's body, and an enormous golden ape with a sparkling and translucent body appeared. Mysterious talisman markings that covered the sky surged around its body, and they carried silver-gold arcs of lightning that caused the surrounding space to ripple violently. Oh, this was the red-bone horse-ape. Its roar was like thunder, and its innate spirit eyes looked down on everything in the world. It suddenly swung its claw, and lightning arcs overflowed in all directions. It brought with it a hazy radiance, as if it was the beginning of the world. A terrifying aura erupted, as if it could sweep through all directions and suppress everything. Swish! This claw tore apart space and destroyed the killing intent within the great formation. It brought with it an indescribable pressure as it tore apart the great formation. Vast and mighty energy swept through the sky like a flood, and a low muffled sound resounded in the sky. Rumble! Suddenly, the sound waves were sonorous and ear-splitting. The runes and energy that filled the sky spread out in all directions. Then, the terrifying killing formation was directly destroyed, and the runes and energy that filled the sky dissipated in the canyon. Thousands of figures appeared in all directions of the canyon, and their expressions changed. They didn't expect the Demon King to forcefully break the formation so quickly. Su Muxin let go of Du Xiaofu, and a slight blush appeared on her charming face, but it disappeared in a flash. Dragon 5th, Zhang Wenjing, Han Qianren. Du Xiaofu swept his gaze across the surroundings and saw a few familiar figures. His face was cold and a sneer appeared on his lips. They've set up a killing formation. Su Muxin's eyes focused. She could feel the fierce killing intent in the surroundings. Thousands of figures revealed killing intent in their eyes. This was a terrifying killing formation, luring them in and then killing them. Thousands of people, and they were experts from the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. Su Muxin focused and she was worried. This was a sure-kill formation set up by the other party. So many people were set up just to kill the two of them. We meet again. Dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, and legalism. Is this an alliance? At this moment, Du Xiaofu didn't care. He looked at Zhang Wenjing, Dragon 5th, and Han Qianren and smiled faintly. At this moment, Dragon 5th, Han Qianren, Zhang Wenjing, and the others felt a chill. They didn't know why, but their hearts suddenly trembled, and they felt a little uneasy. Du Xiaofu, you provoked the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal, and also provoked the dragons. This time you're dead. Zhang Wenjing suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and said coldly, "Ha, did you see that? That kid seems to have lost his life-saving talisman. He doesn't have a life-saving talisman." Dragon 5th's eyes suddenly lit up, as if he had discovered a new continent. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, didn't have a life-saving talisman between his eyebrows. Swish, swish. Suddenly, all eyes swept over and landed on Du Xiaofu's forehead. "Ha, the heavens are really helping me. Without a life-saving talisman, That kid is dead this time. In an instant, many disciples of the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism laughed excitedly, as if they had won the lottery. The demon king, Du Xiaofu, didn't have a life-saving talisman and could be killed in one fell swoop. However, they had life-saving talismans on them. Protect yourself. Du Xiaofu's voice fell into Su Muxin's ears. He said softly, "If you're injured, I'll feel terrible." Boom. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu attacked first. He took the initiative to attack first. Do you think you can do anything to me just because you have more people? A few days ago, I didn't have enough fun killing. Today, I can have fun. After shouting, Du Xiaofu's figure turned into a golden lightning, like a human-shaped rock. Boom. Du Xiaofu punched out with a dragon's roar and a divine elephant's roar. A large area of space exploded, and more than a dozen creatures who didn't dodge were blown up. The mountains below collapsed and the earth cracked, turning into ruins. Attack quickly, surround him. In an instant, Dragon 5th, Han Qianran, and Zhang Wenjing's expressions changed, and they shouted loudly. In an instant, densely packed attacks came from all directions. Roar! Boom! Meridian spirits roared, martial veins were activated, treasures were in the air, there were terrifying spiritual roots, and there were frightening primordial spirit attacks. Roar! There were also many ferocious demonic beasts that followed the dragons. They turned into huge bodies and covered the sky, occupying the void. All of these attacks were directed at Du Xiaofu from all directions. Rumble! In the sky above the canyon, the wind and clouds surged. The void was dazzling and blazing, and destructive power covered the sky. Wherever it passed, the void turned into nothingness, and pitch-black cracks appeared in the space. This was a sure-kill trap set up by Han Qianran, Dragon 5th, and Zhang Wenjing. More than 1,000 people surrounded Du Xiaofu. At this moment, these 1,000 people were all in the early stages of the martial domain realm. They did not believe that they could not kill Du Xiaofu. The densely packed attacks from all directions destroyed everything. Dragon 5th, Zhang Wenjing, and Han Qianran watched coldly from behind. They didn't care how many of those people died, not to mention that they still had a life-saving talisman. What they wanted was Du Xiaofu's life, and they didn't move now. They were just watching from the sidelines. They wanted to give the Demon King the most fatal blow at the most suitable time. Buzz. Du Xiaofu made his move, and the illusory saber formation was activated. Hundreds of saber lights broke through the air, cutting through the void, containing the 9 palaces of Yin and Yang. Purple flames rolled, turning into a sea of fire, and a huge purple flame demon phoenix shadow appeared in the sky. Sumeru illusion. Xiaoyang seal. Ting seal. Du Xiaofu made his move. Everywhere he passed, blood mist poured, and screams of agony could be heard. Demon King Du Xiaofu's figure destroyed everything in its path. It crushed everything in all directions, and it was incomparably disdainful. Peng descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu rushed towards the crowd, and instead of retreating, an illusory Peng golden wing condensed behind his back. A golden sun hung in the sky, and majestic light filled the air. It was like a Peng spreading its wings, soaring to the 9 heavens, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged Peng bird race. Roar! The ferocious birds and beasts that were pouncing from all directions felt such a terrifying aura. They screamed and roared, and their bodies prostrated. Buzz! Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and a purple-gold light bloomed in the sky. The purple-gold heavenly palace was in his hand, and dazzling talisman patterns rushed out from the purple-gold heavenly palace. It was like a tiger's bones and dragon's bones, like a heavenly phoenix soaring into the sky, like a red phoenix facing the morning sun, crossing the 9 heavens. A dazzling energy erupted from the purple-gold heavenly palace like a suppressed volcano. The god of weapons, peerless in the sky. Roar! Ooh! This mouthful had the roars of dragons and tigers, the cries of birds and turtles, and roars in all directions. There were also gusts of wind and thunder, and the cries of ghosts and gods, as if there were gods and demons roaring. Legalism. Kill! Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He waved the purple-gold heavenly palace in his hand, and streaks of sword aura raged in the sky like thunder, cutting a large number of figures into pieces. School of vertical and horizontal, kill. Mixed blood dragon, kill. The purple-gold heavenly palace was in the sky, and the cries of dragons and turtles were heard. A terrifying sword aura swept across the sky, causing the mountains around the valley to collapse and the ground to crack. The terrifying killing intent made one's soul tremble. A large number of demonic beasts were killed, and many figures were cut into pieces. Chi-La, the sword aura swept out. Not only could it devour the artifact spirits of Dharma and Tao artifacts, it could also kill everything. Kill as many as you see. Du Xiaofu's clear eyes were filled with purple-gold lightning and became blood-red. The monstrous killing intent was not concealed, and it swept across the sky. At this moment, this peerless demon king exploded, destroying everything and starting a massacre. Chapter 1608. Blade radiance danced in the air, killing in all directions. Nothing could stop it. The appearance of the sword radiance shook the heavens and the earth, destroying everything in its path. Rumble! The surrounding energy rumbled like thunder, and a terrifying baleful aura rippled crazily. There were endless screams, but soon after, the slaughtered creatures were wrapped in life-saving talismans and disappeared in the canyon. Buzz buzz. Wind and thunder rumbled. Du Xiaofu's golden wings spread out behind him. He used the rock descends from the 9 heavens to suppress all directions. He was like a human-shaped rock. With a terrifying physical body, Du Xiaofu was able to ensure his safety. He was not afraid of any attacks from all directions. With a rock of 10,000 miles and the wave-like carefree steps, his figure was like an unpredictable lightning as he killed his enemies. Kill! Du Xiaofu roared. Golden light shone brightly as he attacked like a storm. He was like the demon king, like a god of war. His killing intent was overflowing. Around the canyon, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The void collapsed, and a large part of the canyon turned into ruins. Countless boulders were crushed into powder. Thousands of creatures, including many huge demonic beasts, were surrounded and attacked. At this moment, they were still being slaughtered. They screamed and fled. Kill, kill, kill. Du Xiaofu's purple battle robe was stained with blood. He held the purple-gold heavenly tower in his hand and started a massacre. Groups of experts fell, their bodies were cut into pieces, and blood spurted out. At this moment, the entire Qinhuang mainland was shaken by what had happened. One figure after another fell from the space of the god domain, and one after another, huge demonic beasts were sent out. All of them were horrified. Demon King Du Xiaofu did it. He did it alone. There were 2, but there was a woman who didn't make a move. It was all done by that Demon King Du Xiaofu. Silhouettes fell one after another. In their shock, they informed the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal, as well as the elders and experts of the dragons that they had been killed by the Demon King Du Xiaofu. If it wasn't for their life-saving talismans, they would have been completely annihilated. Large numbers of people were still falling from the sky. Dozens of them, hundreds of them. More and more people were being killed, falling from the divine domain to the Qinhuang mainland. The Demon King was killed by Du Xiaofu alone. This is heaven-defying. Terrifying. That Demon King is too terrifying. The entire Qinhuang mainland was shaken. Even the ancestor-level experts from the various clans and races were shocked. One person had killed hundreds of martial domain realm cultivators, and he was still killing in all directions. How terrifying was that? Demon King. That's the real Demon King. Too savage. An ancestor-level expert spoke. He was very shocked. If it wasn't for their life-saving talismans, then the school of legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons would have suffered heavy losses. The dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, and legalism worked together, but in the end, they were killed by the Demon King. Too powerful. It would be great if I could see it with my own eyes. On the Qinhuang mainland, Everyone was discussing. The Demon King was killing in a frenzy. That kind of ruthless killing had shocked them, and they all wanted to see it with their own eyes. The legalism ancestor, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons experts were all twitching. Their expressions were ugly, and their faces were gloomy to the extreme. So many people and the three major powers had worked together, but in the end, they were killed and ravaged by the Demon King. It was like a slap in the face in front of the whole world. It was a painful slap. In the divine domain in the canyon, Su Mushin was also attacking with all her strength. Although it was not easy for her at the moment, and she was also being attacked from all sides, the pressure was not great. Everyone was shocked and attracted by the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Those who besieged her were worried about the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Their hearts were trembling, and they were not in the mood to fight fiercely with her. Du Xiaofu had a set of saber formation, a purple-gold longsword, and a golden-winged rock phantom behind him. He was killing in all directions, and his attacks shook the sky. Dragon Fifth, Zhang Wenjing, and Han Qianran's expressions changed. They did not expect this result. The killing formation could not stop Du Xiaofu, and these thousands of people could not stop Du Xiaofu. He was like an unstoppable realm, and no one could stop him. He was killing in all directions. There's no time to lose. Attack with all your strength and kill this monster, Han Qianran shouted. They could not delay any longer. Ayo, boom! In an instant, the dragon aura around Dragon Fifth surged, and he turned into a giant white dragon that was thousands of feet long and rushed out. The terrifying dragon aura descended. This was a real giant dragon with shining white dragon scales and 5 claws on its abdomen. Its power rushed to the sky, and its huge body crossed the void. Its eyes were like the sun, and a roar was heard from the ferocious dragon's mouth. Ayo, 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 ayo. The dragon's roar was endless, and all kinds of supreme talisman patterns covered the sky. Countless giant dragon phantoms were suspended in the sky, penetrating the void and shaking the soul. It was as if the world was about to collapse. Kill! Zhang Wenjing attacked. Mist lingered around his body, and his eyes suddenly burst out with bright light. Blazing runes shot out from his eyes, like a burning sea of fire, mysterious and terrifying. The blazing flames suddenly surged, and Zhang Wenjing's killing intent was also monstrous. He turned into a sea of fire, and like a tide of flames, it distorted the void of this side of the world, and swept towards Du Xiaofu. Qi La, Han Qianran's body was surging with divine light, like a miracle. He opened his eyes, and a terrifying beam of light swept out like thunder. He had activated the half-step sovereign martial vein. A white tiger phantom turned into a real spirit, shining with white light and peerless in the sky. The heavenly soul divine thunder densely covered the void, and several terrifying means were fusing and gathering together. In an instant, thunder and lightning rushed to the sky, and the white tiger roared. Some ferocious beasts spread their wings and soared into the sky. There were dragon phantoms roaring, and they turned into strange phenomena of heaven and earth. The void was collapsing, and the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. This was the legalism's power of Dharma. The power of Dharma combined, and the power of Dharma was boundless. It was like a supreme being overlooking the common people. The 3 terrifying experts of the same generation attacked with all their strength, and without any reservation, they attacked together, wanting to kill Du Xiaofu. The 3 terrifying attacks came at him, and the void was shining brightly. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and it was as if there were bursts of thunder. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air, holding the sword in his hand. He sneered and said calmly, "Didn't anyone tell you that I've already stepped into the Nirvana realm? I'm not suppressed, but you guys are just in the martial field." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's black hair fluttered in the wind. He no longer concealed his aura, and his eyes flashed with purple-gold lightning as he raised his sword again. Rumble. At the same time, Du Xiaofu activated his martial vein, and the purple-gold lightning talisman covered his body. Suddenly, the surrounding lightning arcs surged violently and shone brightly. At this moment, the sky was filled with rolling thunderclouds, and a supreme pressure descended. The purple-gold lightning surrounded him, and he was like a bright thunder sun in the sky, blooming brightly. Under the terrifying power, the entire void was distorted. This was the power of Nirvana, and it was much stronger than Han Qianran, Dragon Fifth, and Zhang Wenjing. Du Xiaofu activated his thunder martial vein, and the rock soared to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu held his sword and moved forward like a god of war, like a demon king. When he took a step forward, the world trembled and the universe rumbled. Du Xiaofu was not afraid of Zhang Wenjing, Han Qianran, and Dragon Fifth's attacks, and directly slashed out with his sword. Boom! The sword chi was like a rainbow, and the bright purple-gold lightning surged. Du Xiaofu's sword shattered the sea of fire around Zhang Wenjing, and his sword also cut off his head. Kill! Du Xiaofu slashed out again, and the void was split open. The sword radiance exploded with thunder, and Dragon Fifth's head was cut off. Back then, Dragon Fifth was trampled by Du Xiaofu on the legalism martial-proof platform. Now that Du Xiaofu had used the purple-gold heavenly palace and stepped into the Nirvana realm, how could Dragon Fifth be his opponent? And you die! Du Xiaofu's killing intent was monstrous, and the purple-gold lightning around his body drowned the void. His eyes suddenly shone with golden light, and his killing intent was monstrous. He slashed at Han Qianran with the strength to split a mountain. There was nothing fancy about this sword, but an incomparably overbearing aura suddenly spread out from the sword, causing the space to violently tremble. Wherever the sword passed, the space almost collapsed, revealing a pitch-black spatial crack. When the sword radiance collided with Han Qianran's magic technique, the sword radiance suddenly drowned the world, and the purple-gold lightning swept in all directions, finally destroying Han Qianran's magic technique. Die! Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of Han Qianran, and he punched out. The purple-gold lightning surged, and then shattered the void, and the fist blew up Han Qianran's head. On the Qinhuang mainland, people kept falling. Zhang Wenjing of the school of vertical and horizontal fell, and his face was full of shock. A white dragon fell, and it shocked everyone. It was Dragon Fifth. Then Han Qianran, who was known as the number 1 of the younger generation of legalism, fell in a sorry state. His pitch-black eyes were filled with shock and fear. Zhang Wenjing of the school of vertical and horizontal, Dragon Fifth of the dragons, and Han Qianran of the legalism. Someone exclaimed. The 3 of them were definitely the best of the best among their peers in this world, but at this moment, they couldn't withstand a single blow, and were killed by Du Xiaofu. Although they survived, they lost their life-saving talismans. That demon king is too strong. Many experts and various forces on the Qinhuang mainland were astonished. They were extremely shocked, causing their hearts to palpitate. We must kill that Hui. We must kill it. Li Qinfa clenched his fists in anger. His body was trembling, and his eyes were burning with anger. Kill it. Don't let it go. We must kill it. Gong Sunhua said, his hatred overflowing. We must destroy that Hui. It's provoking our dragon clan time and time again. The expert of the dragons shouted, and the sound waves shook the entire Qinhuang mainland. A group of shameless people. The school of vertical and horizontal, legalism, and dragons set up a trap to kill my grandson, but in the end, they couldn't withstand a single blow. They were beaten like dogs by my grandson, and you still dare to be so arrogant. The old lady of the golden-winged rock clan did not hesitate to mock herself. She didn't need to guess to know what was going on. In the divine dominion, there were still people falling. The last Jiao dragon fell, and his eyes were filled with fear. After calming down, he said with a trembling voice, "The demon king, Du Xiaofu wants me to deliver a message." Speak. The expert of the dragons asked the Jiao dragon with a gloomy face. The Jiao dragon was a member of the dragon's bloodline, and was a member of the dragon clan. The Jiao dragon was cowering. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "That demon king said that he wants to remove the names of the dragons, the school of vertical and horizontal, and legalism from the divine dominion. He wants the old bastards of the dragons, the school of vertical and horizontal, to wash their necks clean. When he comes out, he will cut off their heads and kick them like balls. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.